Welcome back, ladies and gents, to the NEC Solidarity E-Race here. We're in South Africa at the moment, but we've had a couple of issues worldwide with some internet coverage and some server changes from Assetto Corsa Competizione. But we've got it all sorted out now, Sasha Montenegro, and we could possibly be ready to go for some semi-final action.
Yeah, I mean, it's just great. Imagine in the real world if you had an issue with your car, Greg, and you could fix it so quickly. But wonderful work by everybody worldwide. It's all technical stuff and wonderful stuff. But we're ready to go, and we've got some live racing coming up shortly. So I'm very, very excited.
Yeah, we do indeed. We're also going to be trying to catch up with Mullen, who's going to be joining us in a couple of minutes' time as well. He's, of course, the representative from Pure Storage. We had a chat about him just before we went off a bit earlier on this evening. And if you have just joined us this evening, apologies for that. It was completely out of our hands. Our production team from EFX frantically to try and sort it out, but it actually turned out to be some on the other side of the sea that we have no control over. But it was only a couple of minutes before it could all get sorted and rebooted. And we've rebooted on the reloaded version of the Solidarity E-Race.
Yeah, and the wonderful thing is we got 4 semi-finals tonight, Greg, 4 different tracks, 4 wonderful circuits around the world. 3 of them are used for Formula One and also for other motor racing as well. And then, of course, one of the iconic circuits in the United States, Laguna, Seca. So, I mean, we're just in, I think, for really, really fast and furious racing, to clone a phrase from a movie.
Yeah, I think even with them having to go on lockdown and not put out, episode 9 of that, I think they've gone to now. Yeah, we can use that phrase, no doubt about it. Fast and Furious is what we're going to be seeing tonight. We start things off at the Silverstone circuit in the United Kingdom. We move across to Hungaroring, from there to Suzuka in Japan, and then across to, of course, Laguna Seca in the United States of America. So it's going to be a real sort of juggle around of circuits, a juggle around of races, some incredibly fast races as well in terms of the qualifying. You can see guys are out on track at the moment into the free practice. This will be a shortened free practice, though. I don't think they're going to run the full 18 minutes of free practice, although we do have all 25 drivers on track. And I think the issues that were happening with the servers, Sash, if people were watching earlier on, we only had about 10 or 11 drivers at that point, and they were certainly affecting the ability of our drivers to get into those servers and to actually get on track and get their little warm-up sessions sorted.
Yeah, you know, thankfully everybody's online, everybody's out on circuit. They all giving their best. They've got to put in their final. As you can see, one of the Astons goes very, very wide. You don't want to go wide there. Let me tell you, that is the final corner before you get into the start-finish going through club. And that's going to affect him all the way going down into Abbey. And I mean, this corner has changed over the years. 10 years ago, they changed it quite hectically. So it's a magnificent circuit, Greg, for all of these guys to be driving on. We are only looking for the top 7 out of our 4 semi-final races this evening that'll make it into the grand final tomorrow. But, Greg, we've also got a wildcard race. Tell us about that.
We do indeed. So, wildcard race will be up for grabs just after this. And, of course, you need to be getting into opportunity, of course, of playing around for that wild card. The wild card basically allows the last 2 drivers of the top 30 to get a chance, and it's kind of like a last chance qualifier for them. And those top 2 will then join the 28 that you've just described in tomorrow night's grand final. If you're in the 8 to 14 range, you've also got an opportunity of also getting into the plate final. Now, remember, we're playing for 30,000 Rand. We're not playing. It's playing a game, but these guys take it very seriously. There's no playing when it comes to the actual race format. And with that 30,000 Rand, remember, each of our semi-finalists get $500 for the win. If you win the plate final alone is 2,000 Rand to the winner. So our big winner for GF2 tomorrow night will be getting himself 12,000 Rand and a gig's worth of LTE and router for 12 months. So there's lots up for grabs here. And I think that's why these guys are not holding anything back here and push themselves, but their cars and their setups that they've done on their cars to the limits.
Yeah, I mean, it's just going to be amazing. I'm looking at what our first semi-final that we've got. Our top 6 drivers on the grid this evening finished within the top 23 out of 100 drivers. So that's an incredibly tight format. And then if you go down from 7 down to 10, they're within the top 37. So, I mean, if you look at just the quality of the drivers, as we're on board with Nick Hodgson, Greg, anything can happen. If you make a little bit of mistake, you're going to allow somebody to come through that door, and it's going to be pretty difficult to catch them in a 20-minute race.
Yeah, that's the important thing. It is a sprint race. It's 20 minutes and 10 laps. And, of course, 10 laps around the 5.8K circuit. That's 50 Ks of racing they're going to be doing. So you think about being in a race car for 50 Ks. Even if you're sitting at home at your desk or in an actual race rig, it's hard on the body, it's hard on the mind, and everything seems to be going according to plan. And then all of a sudden, something goes wrong, and you've got to readjust and refocus and get everything sorted out. On a few occasions at Kyle Army last week, where guys made vital and yet crucial mistakes at the wrong points of the races and dropped them out of contention. And it was also set up things that went haywire too. So hopefully with whatever's happened on these servers, it has the car's abilities or the driver's abilities to keep their setups and hopefully allow them to use those setups for the duration of the race that we're going for.
It's just fascinating to watch these guys. They're going through Cops, Maggots, and then Beckett's, and just showing how those cars actually bouncing on the track. I mean, it is so near perfect the way that these racetracks have been simulated into this game. The guys who are at these steering wheels right now are feeling everything through their 4-speed steering wheels or whatever setups they have. And as you mentioned, Greg, you have to be mentally so prepared for this, because one little mistake and that can cost you your race. And for those who have tried this kind of gaming, and I mean, I've tried it over the Gran Turismo games for years and years and years. You know, somebody comes in the room and you lose your concentration and you go off the track and you go, oh, we'll just hit reset and we'll do it again. You can't do this. This is what bloody just drifting all over the place. Oh, who's that? Oh, wow, all over the place. You can't do that in the race, my friend.
Yeah, I think it was Vanna van Graan that got out of shape there. So he gets back.
Oh, there we go.
And right in front of two hard-charging cars making their way down there. Another Audi and an Aston Martin having to take evasive action there. So very lucky to be avoided, and some contact being avoided there in a big way as well. 76 Vanna van Graan, of course, just avoiding the spinning Audi who was just ahead of him. So it looks like we're going to be in for a bit of fun and games.
Yeah, very much so. And this is a track that you have to be very clinical about. You've got to get your braking points right. It's a very, very fast circuit for the majority of it. But if you get into the slightly slower corners on the circuit and you get your apexes wrong, Greg, you're going to make sure that you're going to allow the person that's right behind you the opportunity to slipstream and pass you, especially going down the hanger straight through Stowe. Down Vale, and then of course you got into the very, very tight left-right into Club. Those are great overtaking opportunities. So I think we're in for some really, really exciting racing this evening.
No doubt about it. And I'm going to ask Brendan. No, that Brendan. If I can just ask you to double check that Electric Mark jumped in there initially. His feed and his link, because we can jump to him quickly before we go racing. That'll be amazing. Around in that's the Audi that spun out. So that was car 62, and we're watching him down Hanger Straight now. Quite a nice angle from that bridge as well. Some of the kind of angle to what they actually use, the live footage from Formula One and from other races that happen here. They've got a sort of an attack angle on the bridge of the cars coming towards it, and then the sort of away angle as well. So you literally switch from one to the other. It looks like they crossed that bridge in milliseconds, which is awesome to see. So I'm just going to make sure that we can try and pick up on.
Yeah, sorry, Greg, there. I mean, just having a look there, you know, if you do get it wrong coming out of Club, as you can see that Aston came flying past the Audi. So, we're in for some exciting time. But I think we've got Alex McCullum with us, Greg, who, of course, is from Pure Storage. and he's joining us, I think, all the way from Ireland. Good evening, Alex, and welcome to the Solidarity E-Race version 2.1. How are you?
Thank you, James. Good evening. I'm very well, thank you. And yes, the weather is great here in sunny Ireland. Thanks for having me on.
Yes, no, we can see. I mean, and look how magic the weather is over Silverstone today. It's not often that you get summer in both Ireland and Silverstone on the same day.
Yes, indeed. I'm just watching the practice here. They've done a pretty good job in rendering Silverstone. It's very impressive. So I'm enjoying the scenery. I'm enjoying the circuit racing as well. It's very good. Very good.
Alex, Pure Storage.
Alex coming in from...
Greg's back.
I think I got back there. Sorry, I don't know what went wrong, but apparently I'm back now. I hope so. Can you hear me there, Sash? Just double checking.
Yeah,
we can.
So, Alex, coming from Pure Storage's point of view, the CTO for the global Pure Storage, but I believe also a massive flight and Formula One fan. So that's what we're going to be tapping into tonight, Al, with you, is your experiences with that magnificent Formula One team that Pure Storage are involved in.
Sure. We've been working with Mercedes Formula One since 2015. Our technology platform, they use that to store high-performance data, and they use that when they are designing the cars, but they also use it when they take it to the racetrack every other Saturday, Sunday. So we get to spend a lot of time with the team, both at the factory and also at the racetrack, and it's a fabulous way of watching Formula One racing. Get up close with the drivers, up close with Toto, and of course with Nicky before he passed, sadly. But yes, it's a great way to go racing.
Yeah, and I mean, you are with one of the greatest teams Formula One has ever seen. Alex, when you say it in the design of the cars, I mean, how does this Pure Storage, I mean, we know Formula One is the pinnacle of motor racing. Everything is high speed, massive high tech. I mean, the systems that you must be bringing to Mercedes must be unprecedented in what they can store and what they can actually do.
Yes, they are. It's an incredible piece of technology in terms of the whole Formula One business. But the team has a wind tunnel, they have a dynamometer for the engine, they have a whole simulation. I don't want to talk too much about the actual simulator itself at the team because they're very careful about who knows what about that particular piece of technology. But they use our technology to simulate airflow over the car, but also more importantly, they use that technology to simulate the stresses that occur when the car crashes. So driver safety is a huge part of Formula One, of course, because those guys like to race, but they don't like to be second. So there's lots of bumps. What they want to make sure is the driver is as wrapped up and protected as they can be, and they use our technology to predict where the car will break and how to simulate the way in which it will fail for different types of collisions as well. So not just faster, but making it safer too.
Alex, we should have actually introduced ourselves, and apologies for that. I saw your WhatsApp coming through there. But yeah, you are chatting to Greg Maloney. I'm known as the voice of choice here in South Africa from a motorsport point of view. Do all the live commentary for racing on the real tracks, and now for the very first time, or for the fourth time now, on a sim race. Sasha Martinengo, my good friend alongside me, of course, is nicknamed the F1 Sasha. One reason only is there's no one with a better knowledge of Formula One in this country, and probably arguably in the world as well. The knowledge that this man has is spectacular, and that's why it was really awesome to get the two of you together. I know we're going to have to probably cut your interview short within the space of the lap that we're on right now, because we're into the actual warm-up lap and into race. So, Sash, you've got a question for Alex before we get into racing?
Well, Alex, hopefully we'll go racing in July the 5th in Austria, and from there, well, I suppose it'll just be flip of a coin.
Yes, who knows, Sasha? I'll certainly be there in Austria and hopefully in Silverstone for 2 races afterwards. But as you say, the cars are on a parade lap. For me, this is just about racing, and that's why Pure works with the team, because we love that speed, we love the competition, we love to win, and we love to see the excitement when people use the technology too. So Formula One engineers, they love it. They love to go racing too. We're all secretly car fans. So thanks for having me on. I've enjoyed the chat. So we didn't have more time, but I want to wish all the drivers good luck today. It doesn't matter if they crash, but keep that pedal down.
Alex, thank you so much. But if you want to stick around, we may be able to get a couple of comments at the end of the race in between semi-final 1 and semi-final 2. or if you've got the time, maybe just hang tight. We've got another 20 minutes before the end of the session, and we're able to get a couple more comments in between. We'll shout out later, and you can join us then. But a massive thank you from your side for joining us all the way from Ireland. That's my home country, of course, and we hope that Pure Storage and all the boys here in South Africa from Pure Storage have enjoyed the coverage that we've been able to give via the NEC Solidarity E-Race.
A pleasure, gentlemen. I will look forward to talking to you later on then. Take care.
Fantastic, man. That's really cool. We get Alex McMullen in there all the way from Ireland. We're good to go, yeah, Sash. Coming up for race semi-final number 1. What we've been looking forward to.
Yeah, I tell you, it's just amazing. The guys are moving side to side to try and get some heat in their tires, and coming down, I think, coming towards the end of the lap, making their way into through the final little chicane at the end of Vale, and we're just about to go racing, Greg. This is going to be a cracking race. The first of our semi-finals, 1 of 4 this evening. The first one taking place at the legendary Silverstone circuit. Of course, one of the great circuits of the world. First ever Formula 1 race took place 13th of May, 1950, which is just 2 weeks from now, 70 years ago. Ooh, the Audi getting very close behind the back of the other car there, and nearly outbraking himself.
I think Mr. Cap Dion Cap is going to have to be very wary there, nearly getting taken out on the warm-up lap. And they have been warned by the stewards to hold their formation. You can see them getting into formation now as they're coming out of course, the second part and into Vale. It's a double right-hander that then takes them through Club, and then they get ready to go now for race 1. This is the semi-final 1 at Silverstone. We're going to 4 different circuits. We're kicking things off here in the United Kingdom, and we're on board from Bashir Jadwat, the pole man's position, looking straight back into that big pack of cars. Alongside him, Morgan McCall has gone with the AMG. You've got Leslie Oliphant and Quade Claessens just behind them, and then it's Arno Fasaki and Jonathan Machotsi pushing hard there in car number 23. Look out for Dion Cap, Henrik Oosthuizen, Hilton Peters, and Franke Albertijn. We're on board here with Leslie Oliphant. He's sitting on the second row right behind the hard charger. That is Bashir Jadwat, the man who set the pace early on. And as soon as we get lights out, we go racing. Waiting for those lights to go out. As soon as they go out, we are then into the full effect of semi-final number 1. Green light. You can hear it in the background. And off they go. It's a great start from McCall. He's going to go around the outside. Bashir Jadwat trying to get on the inside as they go through through Abbey for the first time. Up onto the braking point and through Farm. It's a little left-hand sweep up towards the village and then into the loop. And it is McCall that's he leads out, and Jadwat has to follow him through into second place. Behind that, looks like Oliphant just squeezed out Quade Claessens, and it's then Arno Fasaki and Jonathan Machotsi.
Well, I tell you, what an unbelievable start from the guys there. We've got Jadwat, who's right in the front at the moment, but they're going into the new section, which was, of course, redone 10 years ago. We're on board with Louis Oliphant sitting in third position at the moment. All a little bit tight, running a little bit wide there was Jadwat McCall, so he's going to have to be very careful about that. The stewards are going to be very close. Look at this side-to-side racing. The Audi on the brakes very hard, having to stay behind as they go through, I think they're going through Luffield at the moment down the back straight of this magnificent Silverstone circuit, nearly 6 kilometers long. And let's see if anybody can get themselves a little bit of breathing space. What a frenetic first lap we're having at Silverstone.
I actually picked up on a bit of action just in the background as well. A couple of the cars coming together as they came through into the loop and came out of entry. So a little bit of action in that backpack, and I think it's dropped out a couple of guys. Daniel Rowe might have been one of the guys involved. We're looking at Henrik Oosthuizen at the moment, pushing hard there in the Audi, number 26 in your shot. The orange colours there of Oosthuizen. But at the front end, McCall is holding off Jadwat. Oliphant just behind that, and Fasaki, then there's a little bit of a break. There you can see it just in the background there. A couple of cars coming together. So a little bit of a replay that was going back to what we had here. It's not quite when we have live EFX production where we get told that the replay is coming in. But there was definitely some action coming out of that section and a couple of cars going haywire and into the wall. We're now looking at, of course, Nick Hodgson. Hodgson trying to close things down. He is out of that little battle and out of that fray down to 20th place. Now remember, Nick Hodgson was in 12th place on the grid. So he was definitely caught out with that action, Sash.
Yeah, unbelievable. Here they go through Kopsdal, they go through the Beckett section, one of the most spectacular parts of the Silverstone circuit. We're on board with Arno Visaki in that spectacular McLaren. We've got a yellow flag. Whoa, somebody's gone way off circuit, or is that just the cameraman? The two Bentleys riding
No, there's a crash in the background there, Josh.
Oh, look at this Bentley, look at this Audi going head-to-head at the moment. Is the Bentley going to push his way through? Brilliant side-by-side driving. It is Henrik Oosthuizen who's holding off, and the Bentley coming right next to him as they're going to go into the left-hander at Vale. Yeah, oh, some nasty little driving there, Greg.
Yeah, a little bit of touching coming out of Roots there, I think, Sash. Heinrich Roots just getting a little bit of rubbing his racing and looking for an opportunity now to get through there. So it looks like there's a bit of pushing and shoving. Nico Roots trying to find his way through there. Lost him a little bit of the ground. Back to the front end, though, and still McCall leads out Jadwat. Third place, Olifant, and then Fasol. So it's a nice mix-up of machinery at the front end, too. Not what we saw at Kyalami in the first edition. We've got Mercedes-Benz AMG leading out the R8 LMS Audi, followed very closely there by the Honda, and then behind the Honda, it's a McLaren. So it's literally a massive turnaround with the manufacturer involved compared to what we saw at Kyalami. And you can see just how hard Jadwat is trying. Looks up the inside, can't quite make it stick, and McCall is going defensive, making that big wing and the big bottom on the back of that as wide as possible.
Yeah, and all of a sudden it's closing up. Olifant Visaki getting closer as well. Jadwat seems to have a better line, but he just doesn't have the traction coming out of the corners. So he's going to have to do or think about something else to get past McCall. But it was a great start from Morgan McCall in earlier on. Another big winner, Devin Piazzomusso. He's up to ninth place, started on 11th. So we've also got Oosthuizen, seems like he's got a 5-second penalty down in 19th place as well. On board with Jonathan Machotzi, of course, started 6th and is in 6th place at the moment. And he is chasing Klaassen very, very tightly as well. 15 minutes left of the race, Greg. And I tell you, you can see the guys are very much on edge on this track. It is a very, very technical and very demanding circuit.
No, you've got to be well at the top of your game to go well here at Silverstone, Sash. There's no doubt about it. And that's exactly what these top 6-7 cars are doing. Machotzi has closed in. He's got onto the back end of Craig Klaassen's. So all of a sudden, we've got another man who could make it into that top 7. Now, remember, the top 7 is where you want to be. So Roots and Oosthuizen, and that's why they're fighting so hard. They are on that sort of bubble seat that will not allow them to qualify automatically for the grand final tomorrow night. Another man to keep an eye on is just behind that, Devin Piazzomusso. Now remember, he's the star of the show when it came to our promo video after his incident with the Audis going into the Kleine chicane at Zolder. So he's certainly going to be fired up and wanting to get up to at least into the top 7. He's got a fight with Oosthuizen, and you can see the fight now starting to happen between Jadwat and McCall. McCall possibly going to have to go defensive. He does, but Jadwat comes across it. There might have been a little touch there. I think there was. And you can see just how tight it was because it's now given Olifant and Visaki a shot at the front.
I tell you, Jadwat tried to dive down the inside of the Mercedes, had to take some evading action, nearly left the door open for Olifant as well as they come around to complete another lap. They come through the final corner of Club. They're going to go into the right-hander into Abbey. This could be an opportunity for Jadwat. He's got to get close to that Mercedes and maybe he can dive down the inside. That's what he's going to be looking at. And we lose our signal just for a couple of seconds. Can Jadwat do anything about it? No, it's hard on the brakes going into the loop. Oh, he looks on the inside as he goes to the left-hander. And then, of course, they're going to go into Aintree now. And maybe he'll have a shot going through Brooklands into the left-hander, Greg. But, man, this is great driving from everybody at the front of the pack.
Yeah, they really are pushing it to the limit here, Sash. There's no doubt about it now. Coming under the braking point, and there's a bit of a change up there. Olifant with a bit of a gap now on Visaki. Visaki's had to go defensive due to the fact that he's got Klaassen's and Machotzi all over the back of him. So 3-way battle for the front, 3 for the back, and it's almost becoming a 4-way battle or a 6-way battle for second place. That's how close it is. And Machotzi's made his way through. Great move there from
Yeah, he
watch.
looks like he's got through.
The McLaren gets on the shape. The Honda misses the and I'm going to show you go. Up in there, the replay shows Machotzi moving up nicely and a bit of a chop and change. There was actually Arne Vasaki who actually came out best out of all of them. And as you can see, Vasaki now moving his way up rapidly. Good move there from him as he gets up and plays around. Machotsi now with the defensive driving, trying to keep off the attack there from Craig Claessens. But the big change up there, McCall now hanging on, Judward in second, Olifant, and then Machotsi up into fourth. The biggest winner out of that little fracas was Jonathan Machotsi up into fourth place.
And I tell you, these guys are just doing unbelievable. We've got Claessens, unfortunately, sitting in fifth place at the moment. He's got a 15-second penalty for tagging out the McLaren. So his chances of getting into the top set for the finals tomorrow have just taken a serious hammering. So guys like Piazza Musso will hopefully we'll be checking that. Oh, we're looking down the inside here on the outside. Will Judwat get past him? Oh, a little bit of a squeeze there from McCall. But I think Judwat's going to take him if he goes on the inside. Judwat's going to get him through Beckett's. What a brilliant move. Judwat goes into the lead. Fantastic driving. McCall drops down to second, but he's definitely got his foot in the fast pedal. Going to chase down Judwat. Brilliant pass. And here is the replay. Going into the start-finish and going into Abbey, this takes tremendous courage to go around there on the outside. Brilliant driving.
Yeah, perfectly timed as well. And late on the brakes as they go up into the village loop. And you can see just how tight it was there. He just managed to squeeze him out through farm and then, of course, up to village. And then cut across to the loop. And that's exactly what you need to do. Set it up. But watch out, because McCall has not given up. McCall is staying right there with Bashir Judwat. So the Ghost Bash is under a bit of threat here, and there's a possibility of a return of the favour.
Very much so. We're going down the middle, mid-pack over here. Davide Favo is sitting down in 16th place. He's also in one of the McLarens, chasing one of the Aston Martins as well. Sure, they're driving for pride, Greg, with 10.5 minutes left of this race. Judwat, McCall, Olifant and Machotsi. Claessens with a 15-second penalty, then Rutz, Piazza Musso. So the man who's looking favourable to get in the top 7, definitely Oosthuizen.
And the battle we're watching for at the moment, and both of them off track as we get to it, Sash. Big mistake there from Fabo, and he comes right across the Audi. That's a proper... Van Graan had nowhere to go. Have a look at this, the replay. You can see the two cars coming off track completely. One stays on the inside. You need to get on the brake pedal. And there's a big tag between the two of them, and that is going to be a huge mistake. I was about to battle we're watching right now. He's taking another car out. Davide Favo could be in big trouble here with the stewards. That's two cars in the space of 3 corners. And there's going to be some big chats going on between our stewards in the background and Mr. Favo after his antics out on track. But the thing I was about to say there, Sash, before we got so interestingly interrupted, is they were fighting for what is 15th place. Remember, 14th place is where you need to be if you're not in the top 7. So you can make it into the plate final. So there's a very good possibility that's what those guys were fighting and why it got so intense.
Yeah, 100%. And now we're on board with the magnificent Bentley. Nice to see that Nico Rutz, the car number 47, got with a Bentley, at the Silverstone circuit as well. Drive-through penalty for Favo for those antics. And I tell you, he's one person who wouldn't want to go up to the stewards, clerk of the course at the end of this race, I can tell you. We only got 9 minutes left to go. We're on board with Oosthuizen at the moment in 8th place. He could get a net 7th with Oosthuizen, with Claessens' 15-second penalty. And at the front, we've still got Judwat from McCall, from Olifant, Machotsi, and it is Audi, Mercedes, Honda, as well as Audi in the top 4. It's great to see the Honda up there as well, Greg. We didn't have any Hondas last week at Kyle Army.
No, definitely not. No Japanese product at all there, unfortunately. Doesn't look like there's many Italians out there either. I don't think anybody's gone for the Ferrari option here. But there is definitely a Porsche, but that Porsche of, I think it's Dylan Hall, I beg your pardon, also getting a drive-through penalty down in 22nd place. Daniel Rowe also with a bit of an issue. Looks like he's had to go and do some chatting to the COC via the communication that happens with our race stewards. And as you can see now, the battle at the front end, because of that little bit of chopping and changing and the antics that happened with the Audi and the McLaren, and that has allowed Devin Piazza Musto up into the coveted 7th place. So he's going to be concentrating probably harder than he ever has right now to try and maintain 7th place, as he is under attack now from Roux. As you can see, Roux starting to make his way. Henry Roux is starting to have some fun and games there with Leach and with Oosthuizen. So the two Aston Martins, and make it 3 Aston Martins, starting to rapidly there on the orange Audi of Oosthuizen.
Yeah, Oosthuizen is the guy who's most probably got it all to do in the next 7.5 minutes. If one of those Astons gets past him, they will definitely be in the final. He'll be happy. He'll be safe to make it into the plate final, but I'm sure he wants to get into the main final as well. And here we are on the well, we got Oosthuizen.
One thing to take into account there, Sash.
Yeah, no. We got Oosthuizen there in 8th, but he's got the guys chasing him. He will get a net 7th, but I think he's got to watch out for Roots behind him, because that's going to get very, very tight. And this is on board with Leslie Oliphant, who is chasing down McCall. It seems though that McLaren looks just mighty racy. And Jadwat streaming off into the distance. Can McCall get past by Oliphant? So it's the Honda. Sorry,
Oliphant's around the outside having a big look.
The actual Honda.
He had a big look around the outside there in the Honda. Didn't quite make it stick. McCall saw him coming, squared the corner off. But there you can see Jadwat in the front of that shot. Then you got McCall in the AMG in 2nd place. It's a hard-charging Leslie Oliphant in the Honda, as you said, trying to find a way through. He can see Bashir Jadwat getting away. Jadwat at the moment has got the $500 in his pocket if he can keep it all together. But also don't take out of the equation Jonathan Mokgotsi, who is slowly but surely reeling in 2nd and 3rd place. We're on board now with the 3rd place man. This is Leslie Oliphant. If I ever go up into Abbey Corner, he's going to have to go around the outside like his compatriot did earlier on. You can make it stick around the outside. There's a lot of grip available. Remember, what happens with the circuit is the same thing that happens in real life. As more and more rubber gets put down on the virtual track and the virtual rubber, it becomes virtually a lot more grippy. So that's how it all works. Very similar and almost identical to what you'd have happening on the actual track if you're racing at Silverstone Live.
I tell you, Mokgotsi's got a lot closer to Oliphant. Oliphant was trying to do so much to get in the back of McCall. It's now allowed Mokgotsi to get into his slipstream. Of course, we're coming up to the left-hander, going to go through Luffield now. And then it's the right-hander and the big right-hander going through Cops as well. So watch out for Jonathan Mokgotsi. I think he's going to try and do something as we're watching Franco Albertine coming through on the inside of Leach. So terrific driving there.
Yeah, a good bit of drive. Aston Martin using the slipstream effect. Back to the battle between Leslie Oliphant and Morgan McCall. Morgan McCall now going defensive, but look at how they've closed in there as well. Mokgotsi's in the mix too. So we've got Mercedes-Benz versus Honda versus Audi, all trying to catch Bashir Jadwat, who's disappearing at the front end. Defensive driving, but a good bit of driving there coming out of the Honda. And can he make it stick? No, Oliphant is on the wrong side of this section of the circuit. He might even lose out to Mokgotsi. Mokgotsi's gone on his inside, has got through. Jono's got through and made a move there. Perfectly done.
Yeah, superb driving from Mokgotsi. Took the gap there. Oliphant was really trying to put it all over the back of McCall and open up that door. Can Mokgotsi do anything about Oliphant now? But I tell you, a man who will be spitting inside his visor at the moment will definitely be Leslie Oliphant. Let's see if he can do anything to get back on Jonathan Mokgotsi.
Coming out of club now and to complete another lap. We got 3 or just under 4 minutes to go as they cross the line and head back down towards Abbey Corner. You can see Mokgotsi now has got the fire in him. He certainly wants to find a way for that big Mercedes-Benz in front and maybe make it up into 2nd place. He didn't really feature at Kyalami, and we kind of thought he would, but he's certainly at home here in Silverstone. And hopefully he's also done a bit of work at the, of course, magnificent Mount Panorama circuit where we're heading tomorrow night for the grand final. And if that's the case, these boys could be in a bit of a run for their money coming out of the Volkswagen Motorsport South Africa's number 1 man.
Yeah, it's just some fantastic driving between McCall, Mokgotsi and Oliphant. 2nd, 3rd and 4th. Don't forget, Quinton Klaas has got a 15-second penalty. It's sort of stayed the same behind. Roots, Piazza Musa and Oosthuizen. It doesn't look like anything's going to challenge them here. But this is very much the race for 2nd place. Jonathan Mokgotsi is chasing heading down. Morgan McCall and Oliphant right behind them as well. Let's see what Machotsi can do. Oh, one of the fastest parts of the circuit here. They're going through Beckett's and Maggots and Beckett's. And let's see if he can do anything into the Chapel Curve as they go down the long hanger straight. This is going to be a good opportunity to go into Stowe for Leslie Oliphant and Jonathan Machotsi.
Now, it looks like Machotsi's got a slight drive, and I think his tyres have held out a lot better than what the Mercedes-Benz has done. There's no doubt about that. They're heading down, of course, the straight now and pushing it to the limit. Oliphant trying to hang on for that inside line and looking for opportunity is Jonathan Machotsi, but he can't find it just yet. But have a look just behind that. We've got Craig Claessens, who's now moved up into 4th place. Remember, he's still sitting within second penalty, so he's got to get up as high as possible to try and negate that 15-second penalty. If he can't, there's a good possibility that Oosthuizen might bump him out for the top 7.
Yeah, 100%. Something definitely happened with Machotsi. Either made a mistake or perhaps maybe his tyres are gone off, but he's dropped down to 5th place there. So McCall back in 2nd. We've got Oliphant in 3rd. Claessens with that 15-second penalty might be safe, might not be safe. We've got to see how the rest are doing it. Bashir Jadwat, he is way out in front. Got a huge lead. And 6 seconds ahead of Morgan McCall. So spectacular driving by a very accomplished gamer as well. He'll be very, very happy with this performance. But look at the 2nd, 3rd, 4th. It's all happening. We've got Craig Claessens with the 15-second penalty. He's going to try and get up there. He's right in the back of Leslie Oliphant. Oliphant right in the back of McCall. So this is what it's all about. And this is what these are the guys who could well make it into the final tomorrow, Greg.
At this stage, Claessens will probably drop down to about 10th place with that 15-second penalty. So he's got to get to the front of this pack and try and open up a bit of a margin. And with only the last lap to go, I don't think there's going to be enough time for him to do that. So you can see just how tight it's going to be here, Sash. These guys pushing to the limit and looking for that top 7. Devin Piazza-Musso doesn't have to fight right now. He can just hang on and stay ahead of Oosthuizen. He's definitely secured himself a top 7, which is exactly what his plan of action was. The 23 car there of Machotsi hounding the back end of that orange and white AMG, and the 13 machine of Craig Claessens. Well, is the 13 going to be lucky for him or not? Because they'll have to see how far back he drops in the overall standings once that 15-second penalty is implied at the end of the race.
Well, this is the man who looks like he's definitely going to be the lucky sort of loser in a way. He's sitting in 8th place at the moment, but with Craig Claessen's 15-second penalty, it looks like he's going to finish in 7th place. But we've got one full lap to go. As soon as Jadwat crosses over the line, it'll be the final lap of this first semi-final. And here we are with Jadwat going through the magnificent Maggots and Beckett's. Oh man, it is just such a spectacular part of the Silverstone circuit to watch. He goes down the back hanger straight. This is a long way to go. Then Stowe, Vale, hard on the brakes through Club, and then onto the start finish. It'll go onto his final lap. And I think he's put in some very respectable times as well, Greg. It's been a solid drive from Bashir.
Yeah, Jadwat is the man to beat here, that's for sure. And he's decimated the rest of this pack. McCall still hanging on for 2nd. 3rd place still in the hands of Oliphant. The battle is between Claessens, Machotsi and Roots. They're starting to come into each other's very close company into these last couple of corners. Very good possibility that this is going to be the fight we see in the mid-pack of tomorrow night's grand finals. As they come through here, you can see, it's magnificent to see these guys in full flight as they start their final lap. These guys are going to be they're going to be pushing it to the limit and more, and probably looking for opportunities wherever there are some. But I can tell you it's not over yet, because remember, we've still got 3 more semi-finals to come here this evening and our wild card final later on tonight. So at this point in time, the top 7 is what we're looking for here as they come into the tricky little section. And coming out of that one now, it's Jadwat with almost 7 seconds ahead of Morgan McCall. He's, as I said, decimated this field. He really has put the hammer down and got away from McCall. In fact, he's moved up to 15 seconds ahead. That's how hard he's pushed in these last couple of laps to get away and open up a commanding lead as he comes through now into the closing stages and across the line. Checkered flag is out. The first winner for the NEC Solidarity Race semi-final is Bashir Jadwat, getting himself a $500. 2nd place is McCall. Round the outside. Oh, problems there for the number 10 car. That's a big move there from Olifant, losing out right in the closing stages, and Claessens makes up one position across the line.
Yeah, definitely some kind of issue there
big
for
moves.
Olifant. And Piazza goes into 4th place. Wow, where did he come from with that? Unbelievable how things have changed. Quinton Claessens drops down. Machotzi down to 9th place at the... Jeff Kruger goes up to 9th place. So Machotzi down to 11th. What happened on that final lap there, Greg? Unbelievable. Machotzi down to
something went down
place.
there. I'm not quite sure we picked it up on the action replay, Sash. We'll have a look and see. But definitely an issue. Machotzi might have run out of fuel or some issue on the sideline there as he pulls out. So he's lost out big time.
Wow.
And has unfortunately come to a stop just before the end of the back hanger straight. So that's Jonathan Machotzi dropping completely out of contention. Hopefully we'll get a little result panel there for our top 7. That's what we need to look at. And even if we can get the top 15, it's probably important to get that too. But no issues with car number 3, Bashir Jadwat, taking the victory there. 2nd place going to Morgan McCall. Leslie Olifant beating the Bentley of Devon Piazza Musso. Then it was Oosthuizen. So Anu, is it Anu? No, it's not, beg your pardon. Oosthuizen is Unrik. Unrik Oosthuizen coming through for 5th place ahead of Craig Claessens. So Claessens has been classified in the top 6, and then Franco Albertine in the top 7. So that is guaranteed into the grand final tomorrow. Roots, Kruger, Leach, Fasaki, Roux, Hodgson, and Van Graan currently in the good seats for the plate final so far. But of course, we've got to wait and see if those penalties are going to be applied, and it might drop Craig Claessens out and allow Roots into the top 7.
Yeah, I think that's what's going to happen. But Jonathan Machotzi must be kicking himself at the moment. What a drive. He was up to 4th place at one stage, challenging right up there, Greg. It seems as though he's run out of petrol, and he's classified down in 16th position. So he's out. I can't believe it.
Yeah, he's even out of the plate final possibly there, and hopefully he'll be given an opportunity for that. As I said, there is a coveted invitational slot. There's 2 of them that the organisers have put together to allow maybe a last-ditch effort there from some of the drivers. So we'll wait and see if he's going to be one of those guys given that opportunity. That's not for us to decide. But definitely an incredible start to this evening. Machotzi, according to our management group, has just been given the opportunity to be in the wild card race. So we are going to give him another shot at it. And I think that's well and just. Good effort there from our management team and from the stewards. But in the beginning of the race, we caught up with Alex McMullen. I believe he might be standing by for us for another interview. And if he is there, Brent, just let us know. Otherwise, I'll get him online. Yeah. There he is.
Well,
good evening, Al. How are you doing, back? Thanks again for joining us again.
Good to be back.
Alex, what did you do with the race?
You got to see it.
Pretty fast, huh?
Yeah, it was pretty impressive. I got to say that he came through there and decimated up to about 16 seconds at the end. But he is sort of one of SA's finest gamers. So I think we're going to be in for a bit of a run for his money when he gets up against some of the other top contenders in our classes. We've got 4 separate semi-finals. You joined us at a circuit that's sort of just down the road or just over the ocean, of course, from where you stay. But we're now going to cross the ocean again and head across to Hungaroring for our 2nd semi-final of the evening.
Yes, we like that circuit. Pretty hot, dry, and dusty in the Hungaroring. Been there a few times with the team, but a great place to go visiting as well. I don't think it's going to be quite as hot today, though. What do we think?
I think we're going to have
we've set the conditions
at about 21.
Yeah, Sash, you've got a little insight that our guest doesn't have. What we've done, just for your info as well, Al, is we already set all the weather conditions for the semi-finals as clear with a 21-degree ambient temperature, and they don't need to do any pit stops unless, of course, they break the rules and have to do some drive-throughs or 30-second stop-goes. But everybody in the semi-finals at each of the circuits are going to be on the same conditions in terms of weather. It's now sort of up to them to decide what they can do with their race setups. And I mean, you know about how vitally important it is. Just before we went to race number one to get those setups into the ideal for each circuit that you go to.
Right. I've actually had the privilege of touring the Hungaroring circuit in the safety car with the racing drivers at speed. It's pretty relentless in terms of corners. Every corner flows into the next. It's hard on the neck. It's hard on the back. So I do feel that they're getting the easy way out this time by e-racing.
Yeah, it is. It's one of those circuits where you look at it and you think, oh man, that can't be that difficult. And yet it is very, very punishing because it's got those, sort of double apex turns at turn 2 and turn 13. And then, of course, that sort of, fast, medium-paced circuits towards the back end of the track. Not an easy track to overtake on, Alex, but still a wonderful track to drive.
Yes, everybody likes to have a go down the inside at turn 1, but it's got that downhill turn to the right, which is pretty tricky. So it's a racer's circuit. You've got to be pretty brave here. But as we know, there's no penalty for getting a little bump to your opponent in e-racing. So I think it'll be pretty spicy on that first turn.
We like spicy. We like rubbing is racing. So hopefully that is the case. Just to give you a heads up as well, Al, in terms of our qualification, we spent the last 4 days at the incredible Zolder circuit in Belgium for all the qualification. And if we look at our top 8 out of semi-final 2 here, the top 7 all finished within the top 22. And those top 22 were all split by the same second. So just as exciting as it is in Formula One, when it comes down to hundreds and thousands of seconds splitting the field, it's on a similar vein that we're doing it here for Solidarity E-Race.
Yeah, it sounds like it's just the real thing. If I go back to, I think, with Austria, where Bottas won a couple of years back by less than a second from Vettel, and that was probably, he won by a couple of meters over that whole race distance. So yeah, small distances matter. That's why the technology comes into this and makes it so important, and that's why the drivers are so fit. Every single ounce, every single millimeter makes a difference.
Yeah, and as we mentioned last night, Greg, with the Hungaroring, thank goodness they called corners 1, 2, and all the way up to 14, 15, because the Hungarian language, one of the most difficult languages to listen to, as well as to even pronounce. So at least we can just go, oh, they're in turn 4, turn 5. It's much easier than trying to spell out a name.
Yeah, not been to that one, I don't think, in terms of racing, but I have been to Zwart Cups as well. I've been and done the racing there for the AMG day, so I've enjoyed the racing with some of your tech partners at Data Sciences too. So I do like a little bit of South African action as well.
Well, that's brilliant to hear, Al. We're pretty impressed that you've been here, and we can't wait for you to come back for some more, because if you do get out here, of course, I think you definitely need to hook up with myself and Sash, and we can maybe take you on other ventures in the motorsport world here, because the two of us have been doing this for a while. From your side of things, though, and Pure Storage's side of things, it must be pretty exciting to not only be involved in the real deal, but now, of course, with our partnership here in the NEC Solidarity E-Race. How has things been going from Pure Storage's point of view, and the coverage, and, of course, what out of this?
So we're doing this because it's a great cause. Obviously, the charity and the fundraising aspect is very important, and particularly with the wider society now, it is a big part that we all have to play. So what we have learned, obviously, we've had some tech troubles today, which it looks like it's been fixed now. But looking at it more broadly, e-gaming has become a much more important part of the whole racing circuit. As you've seen with Norris and Albon and various others on Twitch, everybody's now doing the sim side of things, and we at Pure are simply happy to be a part of that story. It's great for the younger generation, if I can say that, because I'm not that generation anymore. But what we do like to see is people having fun, and it also makes it a much wider way of bringing everybody together. You can do the online chat, you can get like the real racing experience, and hopefully it'll bring people closer to the sport, because that's what we want overall.
Yeah, I think such a valid point of bringing people closer to the sport, because there's so many times when it comes to real racing, and specifically the likes of Formula One, people sometimes do feel so detached from such a high-tech sport, whereas, involving them into GT racing, and then, of course, going into Formula One sim racing as well, all of a sudden, maybe a lot of youngsters will start feeling a lot closer to the likes of the Lando Norrises and the Charles Leclercs of the world, and bring in a new generation of youngsters adoring Formula One.
Yes, I'd agree, Sasha. And obviously, the second part of that is it brings a lot more young people into science, engineering, the whole STEM subjects. Education's a really important topic, and if it makes them become, an aerospace engineer, or maybe they become an astronaut, or maybe they just design a faster sports car, then that's a win. Education is so important as we go forward, and maybe it brings more women into the sport too, because that's what we really need.
Yeah, we certainly enjoy the fact that in South Africa we've got a whole contingent of top-class lady racers who have been onto international fields and done some wonderful things. Tasman Pepper being sort of top of the list there in terms of her abilities in Formula W last year. And, of course, her brother Jordan coming out of that incredible win at Bathurst at the beginning of the year before we went into lockdown. So we've got the likes of the Pepper family. We've got a South African flag emblazoned on the side of Adrian Wood's AMG that he's using at Hungaroring. And I think that not only taking into the fact that the ladies are getting involved, the youngsters are getting involved, but I love the way that you put the educational spin onto it. Being an ex-school teacher myself, I know that at one point in my career as a motorsport commentator and when I was still teaching, there was a big move to try and bring as many of the sort of electronic engineering or mechanical engineering or whatever engineering students that were out there into some form of online training to get them involved in motorsport.
Yes, it's a great initiative, and even now you can apply to be, an intern at any of the F1 teams. They have a big intake every year. It's certainly something I'd recommend. Obviously, it depends where you live for sure, but it's a great way of experiencing that side of the sport. And of course, you get to get up close with the celebrities, the drivers, and everybody else that comes to the factory. But as you say, the bigger challenge here, Greg, is how to get everybody up to that level of being able to contribute in that technology side of things. And motor racing is a great way of bringing it all together, because you can see it's so real.
Yeah, very much so.
There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, sorry, Greg. And I mean, if you want to get progress in the world of racing, of course, the best way, or the world of motoring, I suppose the best way is to do it on a track, and then from there pass it down onto the manufacturers.
For sure. If you look over my shoulder, that's my go-karting helmet. We still go racing every other weekend. So I'm still trying to not get beaten by my wife in every go-kart race. That's the big challenge for me. But I think it's true. It's true. She's a motorbike rider, so I always have to lose on that side of things. But Pure at its sense is an engineering company, so we relate very strongly to Mercedes. Innovation for us is key, and we help them create a little bit here, a little bit there. I think the wider lesson for all of us is it doesn't matter which part of our education, our job we're working with. It's easy to make that balance of technology, fun, interest, but also pass that on to the next generation, because we're going to need them to create the next Formula One cars or the next aeroplane, whatever it happens to be. That's the best part about it.
Alex, thank you so much once again for joining us here for part 2 of you, and for hanging around. We're going to let you go and join your beautiful wife and enjoy the racing from our side of things. Please pass to everybody at Pure on that side our very best. And in this time of lockdown, stay safe, stay positive, stay home, and hopefully we'll get to see you when you come across to South Africa again.
Look forward to it, Greg. And take care, Sasha. Thanks for having me on the show. Good luck for all the racers. See you soon.
Thank you very much. Just some fabulous insight from Alex McCullum. So, Greg, we're at the Hungaroring. This is also an unbelievably competitive semi-final. If we look at the top 7 drivers, all managed to finish within the top 22 of the top 100 in our qualifiers.
Yeah, and front row, of course, is first and second of those top 100, Jordan Sherritt and Luke Lachesi. Second row is Julian Familiaris and Robert Whiting, who finished 6th and 7th in that top 100 hot lap shootout. So we could kind of call this the group of death because of how close they are matched. Jason Absmeyer, of course, a big factor to be taken into account with Jason Absmeyer. And don't ever count out Bruno Cadilli after his antics and 3rd place on the podium at Kyalami.
Yeah, and I tell you, watch out for Michael Steven, multiple South African champion in anything this guy gets into. He's quick. So let's see how he goes in his sim race this evening. But Michael Steven, definitely a man to watch. And then, of course, you've also got to watch the guys going up to 14th place because they could make it into the plate final as well. So a lot to drive for this evening. Luke Lucchesi, I found out the other day, it was actually a kart, Greg. I wasn't aware of that. So he's got some proper pedigree as well.
Yeah, it's great to see. And also one of the guys who put in hours and hours and laps and kilometers around the hot laps to make him up into the top 2. So it certainly paid off. I know he battled a little bit at Kylong and wasn't quite where he wanted to be. And you could see it on some of the social media posts he put out, how disappointed he was. But I think that disappointment might be turned around over the next 2 days and over the next sort of 36 hours. As we see a couple of guys just running a little bit wide, getting themselves just in sync with having to run with cars all around them. You know, in the practice sessions, they haven't had sort of a pack of cars like this to deal with. And now with a rolling start, they've got to then get into their formation and get ready to go. It's basically Mercedes-Benz dominated here, as you can see. Porsche are definitely in the house. As you can see, they've also dropped a couple of Porsches in there. Certainly the car to be at or be in for this particular semi. If you look at the top 6, 5 of them come out of the AMG Racing stable. So they've definitely done their homework and decided that those could be the steeds to choose.
And we do have a Ferrari in with Blake Kruger in 14th position. All right, we're coming over the start-finish line. We're waiting for the green lights. It'll be Jordan Sherritt who will lead the pack away. It's not very long down to turn 1, and it sort of angles down to the right-hand side. We've got green lights. It's Jordan Sherritt. On the inside, it's Luke Lucchesi. Lucchesi seems to have a better line going into turn 1. So let's see what happens going into our first turn this morning. No, it's this evening.
Whoa! Big box in the back there. Audi coming from the back. I think that might have been Steyn or possibly Jonathan Bentz or Marcus Steyn, who got out of shape there. You can see it from the aerial material shot here. Just chaos into turn 1 as they all tried to avoid the cars that got taken out. And more cars getting taken out as they came out of turn 1 and headed towards turn 2. Another big incident. That is just absolute chaos here at the start. Familiaris for sure. And looking further down, I think it might be also Michael Steven. Where did he end up? No, he's just stayed out of trouble. Fortunately, they're in 4th place. But definitely some big problems there. Bruno Cadile and Jason Absmeyer sitting in 7th and 8th. And Familiaris dropping down to 10th.
Yeah, well, Robert, what's a big loser? It was the orange Audi that took everybody else. Robert Whiting just all over the shop at the moment. Man, what a chaotic start to this second semi-final at the Hungaroring. I'm trying to figure out where we actually are on the track as we get on board with Evan Meister, and he's sitting in 5th position at the moment. Steyn has got a looks like a 5-second penalty added to his time as well. So we need things to settle down a little bit. Going to be completing the first lap of the Hungaroring. That was chaotic. And it was Steyn in the Audi that created all of the chaos during that first lap. Watch out for Michael Steven. There he
and you can see
sorry, Greg.
You can see that Steyn caused all that chaos and has been given a drive-through penalty. So he's going to have to take that drive-through at some point, which is going to allow both Cadile and Absmeyer and Patterson to make their way back up into what will be 6th, 7th, and 8th place. And then you've got Julian Familiaris, the man who lost out due to that incident, down in 10th place with some work to do. So it really changed the whole front end of that field up with that first lap incident down into turn 1. And then, of course, there was a separate incident just after that with, I think Lyle Ramsey might have been involved, but with Ramsey at the moment, he's in the sky blue Aston Martin, being closed down there by, I think that's Schutter and Joubert just behind him. Shiraz Dada in there as well. A little bit of chopping and changing for the mid-pack. And remember that mid-pack we have to keep an eye on as well, because the 8 to 14 are going to be in contention for the plate final. So there's lots of action still to happen here. We've got 17 minutes of action still coming your way. Unbelievable to see how this race started out. And there, of course, is the big protagonist, the man who caused all the chaos into turn 1, Steyn going up the inside, on the grass, in fact, and took out about 3 or 4 cars.
Yeah, it was. I tell you, there'll be a couple of drivers that'll be like Familiaris for Absmeyer will be very, very upset because also, Greg, this is a difficult track to overtake on. So once they start getting into a little bit of rhythm, Steyn is going to have to get out of the way and take his drive-through penalty in a short while. But it's a very difficult to overtake on. Lucchesi and Sherritt, those are the two guys at the front at the moment. Van Coller, Michael Stevens, a big winner, starting from 7th up to 4th place. He was lucky he didn't get taken out by all of the chaos from number 35, Steyn. So then we've got Elisha, Steyn, Kadia in 7th place at the moment. He'll definitely get a net 6th and maybe a little bit higher. But Steyn is going to have to take the drive-through penalty very soon.
Yeah, Kadia there in 7th, Absmeyer is 8, 9 is Patterson. As we're watching, that is Jordan Sherritt, number 1, of course, behind Luke Lucchesi. So the two Carters leading things out as they head up into the top end of the circuit. You can see just how well they know each other in terms of race strategy and probably have raced against each other on the karting circuits around this country. Jordan Sherritt, of course, a KwaZulu-Natal boy. He spends most of his karting career at the Adubi circuit just outside of Pietermaritzburg here in South Africa. So certainly knows that circuit really well. And in fact, with the up and down and the slight undulations here at that they're playing with, it's on a similar vein to what you'd see on the side of the mountain at Adubi. So he's now hanging on for 2nd place. Lucchesi getting away, but have a look just behind that. That's a Lexus in 3rd place. We haven't seen a Lexus yet in the mix. And it looks like Richard Van Coller, has gone for a good option there.
Yeah, looking very, very strong for him, Michael Stephen. But, you know, the massive loser out of that chaos and in turn 1 has got to be Whiting. I mean, he was 4th on the grid, Greg. He's now right at the back in 23rd place. He must be spitting blood. And Steyn still hasn't taken the drive-through. We've got Kruger's also got a drive-through in the lone Ferrari. So didn't see what shenanigans he got up to, but he's got a drive-through penalty as well. Can Michael Stephen do anything about Van Coller in the Lexus? We're going to watch them, but Lucchesi seems to be pulling away, and at this stage, 1.6 seconds ahead of Jordan Sherritt.
Now, Van Coller is under big threat, though. There we go. There's the drive-through for Steyn. He's done his drive-through, so he's gone and done exactly what he needed to do. How far has that dropped him back? It's dropped him down into 11th place by the looks of things. He's just up ahead of Kruger in the Ferrari and Peens, who's come through there. So Darren Peens, of course, will be a little bit further back. He finished 43rd. But I think you'll just have to wait until he crosses that next timing beam to tell us exactly where he slots in to the pack. I think he might have dropped right to the back, to be honest with you. I don't think I saw any cars behind him as he came out of pit lane. But now as we go back to the battle here, 22... being pressurized a little bit here. Michael Stephen has found a way past by the looks of Texas. Yes, he's got through. He's ahead of Van Coller and up to 3rd place in his Aston Martin.
Yes, terrific driving from Michael Stephen. Such an accomplished real racing driver, also an engineer by trade as well. So when it comes to setup, pretty interesting and nice to see him in something other than German-based cars. So nice to see him in an Aston Martin. Wonderful.
Actually, Sash.
Yes.
It's a car that he pilots in the South African Endurance Championship. Paul Hill from Calix has got an Aston Martin, which he bought out of the Stradale Motorsport camp from Charles and his dad, the Oranges boys. And he, of course, got Michael Stephen to be part and parcel of his team. So it's interesting to see that he has gone with the same car he'd be driving in the Endurance Championship here in South Africa.
Well, he's doing an outstanding job up to 3rd place. He's got Jordan Sherritt further down the road, Lucchesi down the road, 1st, 2nd, looking pretty decent at the moment. And we're on board with Devin Elisha. He's in 5th position. He's chasing Van Coller now as well. And there are quite a gaggle of cars behind there. Absmeyer, watch out for them. Peterson, we still got 12 and a half minutes left of this race. So a lot can happen. And we're getting on to Absmeyer as well. And there he is in the number 15 car, the Porsche, getting closer and closer to Bruno Cadillia. So these two boys, very accomplished sim racers as well. So what are they going to do? Both of them are in line to make it into the final tomorrow evening, Greg, but they've got to watch out for the guys in 8th, 9th and 10th just behind them.
No doubt about it, Sash. I think the other thing to take into account is this is the battle for 7th, remember. So remember, we need to get the top 7 sorted out. And once you've got that top 7 sorted out, that's where we're going to be fighting for the automatic entry into tomorrow night's grand final. Anybody behind them is going to be fighting hard to possibly make the plate final or the wild card final later tonight.
Yeah, there we go. Absmeyer still sitting comfortably in 7th position. Peterson right behind him. So he's got, he's going to have to be very, very meticulous going around the circuit for the next 11 minutes. Just going to see, our camera man in the helicopter this evening, giving us some great shots of the Hungaroring going into turn 1. Around the Hungaroring, it drops down quite a bit. Oh, sorry, going into the back straight, coming into the last part of the circuit now into turn 2. Oh, I've got 2 screens going here, Greg, and the one is more delayed than the other. So I'm looking at 2 different sets of pictures.
Don't stress. It's all good. Sash, I think we mentioned him last time, but you said we were flying EFX Air this evening to go from Silverstone to Hungaroring. You said I was in the cattle class and you moved yourself up to business. The reason you got to business is because your seat was taken by Clint Buckham. And he's, of course, our official helicopter pilot here this evening and doing a superb job for the aerial material. But he's the reason you didn't get that first class seat, buddy.
Yeah, there we go. Fast House Nitro. Clint Buckham giving us our aerial shots here. We're with Julian Familiaris. He's in 9th place. He needs to make up 2 positions to get into that final. Otherwise, he's going to be in the plate final. He's got Peterson just ahead of him. Absmeyer just in head. Oh, look how tight this is. Absmeyer going down the inside, looking at Bruno Cadilha. Can he do anything around the outside? This is a massive scrap. Anything can happen here, Greg, between 5th place and 10th place are in this battle. Either any one of these 5 drivers could make it into that top 7.
Yeah, coming out of turn 14 now, Cadilha's managed to hang on. Absmeyer had a big look going through there to get through on Van Coller, and I think he might have got through. Cadilha certainly has, but now it's up to Jason Absmeyer to find a way through in the Porsche. Can he do it? He's got Patterson behind him who will look to follow him instantaneously if he goes, oh, look at that. Look at the braking and the sparks coming off that Lexus as he climbed on the anchors for turn 1. In the second half of turn 1 now, he gets on the accelerator. The 2 Porsches coming along on the attack. They're going to go and try and take out that Japanese product ahead of them. Can they make it stick? No, they can't. This time out, it's Van Coller just hangs on there and makes sure that no one is going to come through. Richard is in a fight of his life. He's got in fact, 2 of SA's finest pilots when it comes to the world of gaming on his tail. And just behind them, Familiaris has now rejoined that pack and is saying, hang on a second, I got taken out unceremoniously at turn 1. I need to get back up into the top 7.
I got to tell you, the Lexus looked really good for the first 10 minutes of this race, but all of a sudden looking very ragged. Look at him bouncing over the curves. This is going to be a great opportunity for Absmeyer. But as I mentioned, very tough to overtake around this Hungaroring. But Absmeyer, I know, as soon as he can get past Van Coller, he will definitely just fly away. The question is, following and passing, 2 different things. Look at that. Lexus is really, really battling. Can he dive down the inside? Is this going to work for Jason Absmeyer? Not yet. Oh, and he's lost a little bit of traction coming out of the corner as well. Brilliant racing. And you've got to say, from Van Coller doing an excellent job defending his position ahead of one of the top sim racers, Jason Absmeyer.
Absmeyer looking for a way past but can't find it. And in fact, just behind that, you saw a big move from Familiaris on Patterson. Patterson saw him coming too and also went defensive almost at the same time that we saw Van Coller go defensive on the Porsche of Absmeyer. Absmeyer now in the slipstream, pulls out under braking for turn 1. He's got it perfectly done. But run as well, he's cooked it. He's run wide out of turn 1 and opened up the door. Here comes Van Coller. He's through. And thank you very much, Madison. The Gulf Racing colours of that second Porsche might just be the first Porsche on track. No, he also runs wide. And Familiaris dives on his inside. That is top quality sim racing as you get it. There's nothing better than them going at it door to door to wing mirror. And fortunately, everybody stayed the same. That's fortunate, I said, as of course for Absmeyer. But the 2 that lost out there and potentially could have got through on Absmeyer certainly was the hard-charging Patterson, who just couldn't quite get through. And what a move there from Julian Familiaris, nearly getting on through on both Porsches.
Unbelievable driving from everybody over here. It looks like Absmeyer got it all wrong. Then it looks like Patterson was through, and then he made the mistake. Wow. Now the question is, Absmeyer's got off. That's unbelievable. What's going on here?
He's dropped out and run wide, and he's dropped behind the Audi. Look at this. There he goes. Makes a mistake coming out of that corner, goes off the circuit completely, and loses out big time. That is going to be a costly move there for Jason Absmeyer, and he's parked it on the sideline. Looks like he's out.
Sure, I maybe gave him the commentator's curse there, Greg, unfortunately. Bruno Cadillia up to 5th place now. He's ahead of Van Collier. So out of all of those shenanigans, it's Bruno Cadillia who's up to 5th place. This guy is so consistent. It's unbelievable. See what he did in Kyalami, and all of a sudden, look at him now, getting closer and closer. Now he's going to hunt down the likes of Leisha in 4th place. So, wow, desperate times for the likes of Whiting in this race. Absmeyer to lose a driver like that. Greg, anything can happen in racing.
I can tell you something, Sash. The biggest winner out of this entire race so far, and we haven't spoken a lot about him, is Devin Leisha. He started in 15th place on the grid. He's ended himself up just outside of the top 3 behind multiple SA champion. And, I'm just getting a good little friend of mine coming to say hello to me here. My terrorist cats have been on the hunt and brought in a little mouse which Sam has had to go and catch. So as we go getting some live hunting happening in my household as well. Stuart Little just joined the event.
I've got to tell you, this battle at the front, Lucchesi had quite a gap. All of a sudden, Sherritt is all over the back of him. The defensive drive from Lucchesi is allowing Michael Stephen to get closer to these guys as well. So this race is far from over with 4.5 minutes still to run.
And if you're a betting man, your money would be on that white Aston Martin in 3rd to finish strong. If anybody can set up a car, Michael Stephen is probably and arguably the best man in the country, particularly when it comes to this kind of racing. And now closing in on the 2 Mercedes-Benz who looked like they might have been fighting a bit too hard and pushed those Pirelli tires. Yes, they're only virtual rubber, but they do get pushed to the same limit as what they would do had it been actual racing on the real Hungaroring. So have they cooked their tires, and has Michael Stephen been able to drive as smoothly as he does, and has a chance of possibly getting the win here?
Yeah, we're watching Julian Familiaris. He's in 7th place, which will put him into the final for tomorrow night. He's chasing down Van Coller. Van Coller's had all sorts of issues in that Lexus. But Familiaris also has to watch out for Patterson, who is just behind him. And then, of course, you got Benz, who's behind him as well. So that top 7, not finalized as of yet. But I'm just trying to see how we're staying with Familiaris at present. We've got 4 minutes left of this racing to go. Greg, I tell you, be a betting person to sit there and choose between Lucchesi, Sherritt, and Stephen as to who is going to win this race.
Yeah, well, with the leaders as they come through that little chicane now, through 6 and 7, heading down towards 8, it's a left-hander, then it's a sharp right-hander that brings them down through a sweeping corner for a left-hand turn at turn 10. And Michael Stephen is all over the back end of Jordan Sherritt. Now, Jordan Sherritt, at one point in his career, would have been on track in real life with Michael Stephen production cars. At the point in time where I was racing production cars in Class T, Jordan Sherritt was in a similar Mini Cooper to what I piloted. And the two of us had a couple of which actually got spoilt on a few occasions because the quicker Class A cars would come through. And Michael Stephen, of course, at that point in his career was one of the leading and champions. He was a 3-time back-to-back champion in production cars, a 3-time back-to-back champion in global touring cars, and now looking to name in the E-race here with us in the semi-finals, and possibly even tomorrow, a big wild card and outside chance for the win.
100%. They got about 2 laps and about 3 laps to go. Can Michael Stephen do anything about Jordan Sherritt? Lucchesi seems to have stretched his legs a little bit, which will make Michael Stephen a little bit upset, because if the 3 of them are really together, that's when the mistakes come in. We're moving down the field. We're on board with Jonathan Bentz. He's in 9th place. He's chasing Patterson. Patterson chasing Familiaris. Familiaris chasing Van Coller. So there's still a lot to play for in the last 2 laps around Hungaroring in our second semi-final for the Solidarity E-Race version 2.1.
Yeah, I can tell you what's happened here, Sash, is Bentz has closed in on Patterson. Patterson's gone defensive, and going defensive, he's slowed himself down, and he's allowed Julian Familiaris a little bit of breathing room. He's making mistakes as well in the Porsche. He runs wide coming out of that corner and heading up towards 5 and 6 now. You can see it's a very, very tricky corner to negotiate, and Bentz will have to be very wary that he doesn't lose out any more positions there. Peens is coming as well.
Yeah,
Patterson's just ahead of him with the leaders in the 3. The AMGs having a go at each other. Wow. Big move there from Sherritt, trying to find a way through there on number 2, Luke Lachesi. And the 2 1s running in opposite numerical order to what they should be after the start of the race. Lachesi got to the front and disappeared. And it looks like Sherritt now wants to get through and possibly take the win in order to get away from, I think, the charge coming from Michael Stephen.
Yeah, I tell you, Sherritt made, Lucchesi's back in the front there, but the 2 of them really doing their best. And it just seems Michael Stephen just losing a little bit of time, unfortunately, cannot get to the back end of those 2 AMGs in front of him. However, they still got 2 laps because they got this lap and 1 more lap to go. They seem to have stretched their legs just a little bit, Greg. Michael Stephen maybe also running out of rubber towards the end of this race, and perhaps maybe conserving some fuel.
I think what Mike's doing as well is he realizes that he's probably not going to be able to go at the hunt for these 2. He'll look and see if there's a mistake from the 2 of them, because he can see just how hard Sherritt is pushing Lachesi. So if they make a mistake, he'll be gifted the victory. He's done this on a numerous occasion where he doesn't have to literally take the win to take the championship. So, he's got to fight tomorrow night hard in a 10-lap, 20-minute sprint final, and then a 40-minute and 20-lap mini enduro. Maybe discretion the better part of valor here. If something goes wrong between the 2 youngsters in front of him, he'll definitely take it with open arms. But I think he's just backed out of it slightly and going to be happy to settle for 3rd place. We're also, unfortunately, not getting to see what their lap times are like. Because remember, if he's put in a hot lap time and he's happy with that time, those lap times are going to count to put them into the grid positions for tomorrow night's finals.
Yeah, very much so. He might be sitting and saying, let me hold back. We've got a lap to go, and let's try and put in a big, big lap in the final one. We're on board with Victor de Kock. Don't forget, we're looking at positions 8 to 14. Swanepoel is in 14th, but he's got a 5-second penalty. And how is this for a bit of irony? Steyn is in 15th. He was the one who created all of the chaos in the beginning.
Yeah.
And he might get up to 14th and make it into that final. As we look at some great driving down the inside here, it is Victor de Kock, who's moved up on, I'm trying to see there, on Dada. Is it?
Yeah, Shiraz Dada. Oh, checkered flag is out. So checkered flag comes out, which means we've got Luke Lachesi taking the victory ahead of Jordan Sherritt, Michael Stephen, Devin Leisha, Bruno Cadilia. Then a great drive there, as we said, from Richard Van Coller. And it's Julian Familiaris, the man who got taken out in turn 1, who ends up in the top 7. So that's a great recovery there from Familiaris. Nicely done. Stayed out of trouble in the second part. You can see a bit of burnouts there. I don't know if they're allowed to do burnouts in Hungaroring, but our guys are allowed to, so we're not worried as they come through there for the celebrations now. And, of course, that means that Luke Lachesi takes the second bit of the prize fund. 30,000 Rand up for grabs, and 1,000 of that has been given out already. Firstly to Bashir Jadwat, and now to Luke Lachesi.
Yeah, fantastic stuff. We're getting the final positions. Yep, and Steyn, I mean, that, I tell you, he should go to the casino this evening after those first lap shenanigans, and he makes it into the plate final as well.
Due to the fact that it is so difficult to pass that. So you've literally got to go and force your way through to ensure that you can get into that top. That's what a couple of these guys had to do. Some of them paid the price. Some of them hung in there. Big winner out of that one, as I said, not only Michael Stephen, but also Devin Leisha. Devin Leisha coming from 15th place to finish up in that top 6 is a phenomenal from the young man. So hopefully we're going to get to see him battling hard later on in the grand final one.
Yeah, I think we've had 2 great races. There was some chaos at the beginning there, and I feel for Whiting. Yeah, let himself down. And Jason Absmeyer also just disappeared. Greg, boom. Was that? Yeah,
Crashing out
just
there, and I
crashed
think
out.
actually maybe throwing in the towel a little bit. Whether he gets an opportunity to be in the wild card, we'll wait and see. I haven't seen anything come across on the group just yet, but there's a good possibility that Absmeyer is going to have to do what he did at the last time at Kyalami, because remember he had an issue where his steering wheel came off. I wonder if there's a similar situation that happened there again, because he's got it mounted to his desk, and of course in the action you might have got a little bit too frantic and pulled it off the desk again and caused the car to crash. So makes it very, very difficult for these guys. But he's now going to have to come and do what he did in the previous one, where he goes from zero to possibly to hero.
Yeah, we're going to have to see. Well, here we go. Konnichiwa. And this is just one of the most spectacular racing circuits in the world. This is the Suzuka track owned by the Honda Corporation. It's got the fabulous 130R, and I think we're in for some superb driving here this evening as well. Greg, you've got to say the man to watch, Zahir Essa. This guy is just clinical.
Yeah.
But he's got Langeveld and he's got Charles Wilkin behind him. But Zahir Essa, if he gets off well at the start, you've got to believe he could be able to control this race.
Yeah, I think Zahir Essa, as you saw in Kyalami, has the ability to get off the line nicely. If he does get the drop, he's also very good at defending and then just eking away at the front end. Chris Langeveld will try and stay with him. But then, of course, you've also got Charles Wilkin. So we've got, in fact, you've got three of SA's top racing drivers in the top four there. Zahir Essa, Charles, and Brandon Orby. Now, Brandon Orby was a little bit too late for the Kyalami round to come and join us, but he's certainly not late this time, having finished up in 18th place, well within that first 22 cars in the same second. But Orby, a multiple SA champion when it comes to V8 supercar racing, so he'll definitely be a man to watch out for as the youngest of the Orby contingent, and hopefully looking to fly the flag high there for Orby Racing in this one, because he's going to try and get through on Charles Wilkin, keep Heineken at bay, Jason Gray up there as well, and then Christos Besson for A2P will be there as well, along with Martin de Beer, Jan Spammers, and Mark Henbury. Now, Henbury was a man who was fighting at Kyalami that we were chatting so much about. And of course, if I'm not mistaken, he's the man who comes from downhill skateboarding point of view as well.
Yeah, wonderful just to see the array of sim racers as well as normal racing drivers that we have. And going around this track, Greg, I think this is going to be pretty hairy for those guys in the midfield. This is not an easy circuit to drive, very, very technical, and your concentration levels have to be right with you. And yeah, I must say, it's a daunting circuit to drive, but incredibly exciting as well.
Yeah, it is. It's certainly one of my favorites. I spoke about it last night, and of course also during our announcement of the semi-finals. You said it's sort of part of the bucket list. It's certainly a bucket list on mine, having come from the arcade gaming and the Suzuka 8-hour game from a motorcycle point of view that we used to have some fun at the arcades. But I think when you look at it from this point of view, and of course all the angles that we've got to play with, courtesy of Assetto Corsa Competizione, and the ability of our director to follow those different cameras and give us the angles that give us all the race action, this is certainly a track that a lot of racing drivers would have probably hoped not to be in the final.
Yeah, and listen, any motor racing circuit, when you come to real racing and not e-racing and sim racing, unfortunately is always steeped in good and bad. And you'll note from a MotoGP point of view, Daijiro Kato unfortunately lost his life at this circuit. A tragic weekend. And a driver who potentially could have been a multiple world champion, Greg.
I'm telling you right now, there's no doubt in my mind on that call there, Sash. Arguably the man who was going to fulfill and fill the shoes that were being opened after Rossi's multiple world championships. And from Japan's point of view, certainly a man who would be in the same kind of echelon as the Hagas of the world, the Yanagata of the world, and the likes thereof. So, certainly I sat and watched that and absolutely just burst into tears when he went across He ran my other option as a race number, as his race number 74. If I can't get 27, I always go for that number. So he also had a special place in my heart. But needless to say, that's what happens in real racing, and it doesn't happen, fortunately, in the racing that we're involved in. You get an opportunity to reset and get back into the pit lane, and the costs are a lot less than having to lose someone of that caliber to a freak accident.
Yeah, I mean, it's just crazy. It feels like yesterday. I mean, that's how crazy these are. And I mean, that goes a long time ago. I'm trying to think. Dajira Kata, I think it's 2000 and
they get it completely out of shape. And when it does go all wrong, of course, it's not the way you want it to go all wrong. It was in 2003, Sash, that he came to the crash, and that was literally a year after he'd been part and parcel of the 2002 Suzuka 8-hour winning team. So he certainly knew his way around this track. So the freak accident there with Dajiro Kato in 2003 is, of course, a sad day in motorsport. But this is certainly a happy day in motorsport. We celebrated Freedom Day only a couple of days ago. We're breaking you free from all the boredom of being in lockdown, and hopefully you're enjoying all the action that's coming your way here, courtesy of our NEC Solidarity E-Race.
Yeah. Yeah, we're into a free practice session for all of our drivers. We've got 23 out of the 25 who are out there. Hopefully the other guys are just doing a couple of little setup changes and ready to go. A mix of cars as well, Greg, which is great. We've got the Porsche, we've got some Mercedes, we've got some McLaren, we've got a Lamborghini there as well. So, well, there we go. We are ready to go around this magnificent circuit. Of course, it is 18 corners around the Suzuka circuit. It is shaped in a figure of 8. And this I think is going to be hairy. I think it's going to be incredibly hairy.
5.8 Ks to play with, Sash, and of course we're going to give a little bit of love to our sponsors here too. So just to give you a heads up, we failed to mention it in the last couple of circuits because the action was so. Before we get into too much frantic action, remember turn 1 at Suzuka for our liking is going to be known as Activist. So we'll be heading down towards turn 1 now as they roll off the line for the warm-up lap. We'll then go into the S-curves. Dunlop curve stays as it is. Degner curve, of course, we can't change. But the hairpin becomes Data Sciences Corporation. We head up to Spoon Curve 130R. That's courtesy of Pure Storage tonight, which is great to see. And in true racing, livery, we're going down to Casino Triangle for True Racing Triangle.
Okay. Wonderful. We're getting on to our warm-up lap. We are with Charles Wilkin. Of course, this is a clockwise circuit. It's quite a drive into turn 1, very, very quick into turn 1. And then, of course, very, very sharp into turn 2 as well. And then you've got to get your exit right at turn 2.
Please, Brendan, we can come to picture one more time. I'll show you who I'm supporting tonight. Just a quick little shot there, if we don't mind. There you go. There he is. Charles Wilkin, go, buddy. The Hulk's in the house.
In the Hulk.
And he's in the Hulk. He's gone with the Hulk colours again. There it is, that magnificent lime green and purple Mercedes-Benz AMG. He was in the Porsche at Kyle Army, but he's stuck with the racing colours, and we love when they do that. It's, I had white wheels on last night. I think they were the sort of grey import wheels he brought along just for practice, but he's now got the purple wheels in. Sash, one of the greatest things you can have as a commentator, and I know that you've done a bit of comment time, but my main career has come out of race commentary. It's lovely to see when you pick up on something like that and a racing driver takes it to heart and makes it their brand, and they literally live the nickname that you give them. It's so rewarding for a commentator to have recognition.
Yeah, I must tell you, Greg, a lot of these drivers listen very carefully what the commentators say, so you've got to be careful what you say sometimes as well. But yeah, it is wonderful that there is that sort of connection, and people sit there and say, hey, that's what they call me. I'm going to pick up on that name. So I think it's incredibly endearing and very, very rewarding for both parties. Going
Thanks,
into
Wesley. I
the
appreciate that.
negative
Or should I say
camber
Warren?
here.
So heading down into the bottom end of the circuit now, of course, there's some very fast sweeps here. And particularly in these kind of cars, getting up to close to the 200K, over the 200K mark. I know we beat a lot of times on the fast sweeps. They could be cornering at close to 260, 280 k's an hour. It's incredible to see the speeds that you're able to get out of race cars and motorcycles around this track. Nice to see a little bit of. Is that Mark Van? Yeah, that's a Mark Van livery on the side of that car. I was going to say that's definitely not a Holden. It's a Lexus, but he's running the livery on the side of that car. So good to see a bit of manoeuvring there coming out of Mark Antle. So Mark Antle running with the Mark Van colours on the side of his Lexus that he's decided to pilot this evening. So we'll keep an eye on him running with MotoGP-esque style colours on the side of that car.
Yeah, I mean, it's just wonderful. You know, they're coming up here to turn 16, the one, you know, through 130R at the bottom of the screen there, and then of course into 16, the pure storage triangle. Did I get that right, Greg?
This is the tricky part here, Sash. This is the one that they've all got to be very, very wary on, because this is where things can go completely wrong, particularly when they're this tight. And now coming up, of course, to take the start, they go into formation. But the next time they come through here at angle, we'll definitely have to keep an eye on who goes straight, who misses the shit, who takes out bollards, and our stewards are going to have their work cut out for them as we now under starters orders and about to go to race number 3. Semi-final 3 here at Suzuka. We've gone from Silverstone to Hungaroring. Now we're in the Far East, in Japan, and lights are about to go green. As soon as we get green lights, we go racing down towards Turn 1, Afri Host, and look to seeing what's going to happen there, because this is where things can get really out of shape, particularly at Suzuka. There are a lot of cars, 25 of them in total, 23 are going to start, and as they head down towards Turn 1 now, good start from Zahir Essa, and Charles Wilkins going with him. Wilkins tries to get up the inside, but no, gets the door firmly shut in his face there by Langeveld. Langeveld goes into second place and hangs on to that second spot. Wilkin into third. A couple of cars in the background running a little bit wide. We're looking at Heineke, who seems to have just dropped down one position, and he's now trying to get onto the back end and find a way through there on Brandon Orby. Brandon Orby has got all over the back of him Heineke, and in front of him, he's trying to get through there on the hulk of Wilkin.
I tell you, very clean start from all of the drivers. Essa really pulling a little bit of a gap on Langeveld, and Langeveld a little bit of a gap on Wilkin. But Orby under huge pressure from Heineke. Heineke looking to go down the inside. Looks like he's taken the place. Oh, and he's pushed Orby Bride. Oh, and he's gone off as well. So I tell you, great move from Heineke, but then pushed himself off at a huge commotion. Can you believe what has happened in that corner?
Yeah, Orby got that all wrong on himself and then came through just in the background, though. Looks a little bit of argy-bargy coming from Henbury. Henbury taking out the beer by the looks of things, if I'm not mistaken. So Mark Henbury in the big Bentley, he's stuck with his guns and stuck with his favourite mark of motorcar. But it looks like he might be in a bit of trouble there, because I think he was involved with the touch that happened there just after Brandon Orby came back on track. Orby got stuck in the middle of that. Didn't look like it was anything other than a mistake from Brandon Orby himself, who cost him the spin. But we got to see him spinning off. And now, of course, that's opened up an opportunity for Essa and Langeveld to get away. Wilkin has got a little bit of breathing room there. Just behind him, I think it's now going to be Christos Besson, who's moved up into 4th. Yes, it is. Henry's 5. Heineke is in 6th and 7th place right now. Is Jason Gray.
Yeah, I tell you, that was just chaotic and a little bit too ambitious, especially on the first lap of a race. You know, your tires are not very, very warm, and when you go into those kind of situations, as you can see, big loser there was Brandon Orby, who dropped way down, sitting in 4th place. But look at this, coming down the straight cars, trying to go 2 or 3 abreast, trying to dive down the inside there on Jan Spanners, but Spanners manages to keep his line with Essa leading the first lap, just half a tenth or so ahead of Langeveld.
Now they come out of the turn 1 Afri Host through the S curves 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then head up towards the Dunlop curve. These cars, of course, not running on Dunlop tires, they run on Pirelli rubber. Dunlop been a long-time supporter of the circuit. And as they come up there, you can see we're here with Buck. And Sean Buck at this stage, in a bit of a fight. Remember, this is the fight now for the second cars on track. He's got Foster just ahead of him. Behind him, looks like that might be, I think that's Haps who's there. So Haps is moving in, and Hunter. And then you've got Andrews just behind them. So it's a bit of a fight here for the sort of 11th to 15th place, but that's exactly what we expected. The fight at the front, of course, is for the top 7. But then these guys definitely don't want to be losing out. If they can get into the 8 to 14 spot, that is exactly where they need to be to ensure themselves a chance of the plate final and also of the wildcard final later this evening.
I tell you, here we go, going into the very famous 130R, and our director was asking why it's called the 130R, because it's 130 degrees radius around that corner, just for the mathematicians amongst us. But I mean, look how close this driving is at the moment. It's incredible what these guys are getting up to, and see if anybody's going to be able to change. At the moment, in 14th place, we've got Hasta. Alby's down in 15th place. No penalty being given to him at this stage, so he's still got a chance to get himself into the plate final. And just looking at the front, it seems as though Essa is still leading up at Essa's good. There we go. Timing screens have come back. Essa, Langeveld, Wilkin. Those are the top 3. Basson, Heineke, Hensbury, and Gray, the top 7 who would make it into the final tomorrow, Greg, if it stays as it is with 15 and a half minutes to go.
Now, Leon van Wyk at this stage trying to close down on Jason Gray. He's got Bernard King behind him. And then by the looks of things, it's Clark. So Richard Clark starting to make his way up into that fight for 7, 8, and 9th place. He's in 10th at this stage. Spummer's in the McLaren. We saw him earlier on. He's fighting with Buck and Hunter. They're a little bit further back. But Leon van Wyk at this stage trying to push as hard as can with 15 minutes to go. Not too hard, though, because remember, if you have just joined us here for semi-final 3 of the NEC Solidarity e-race, as they head up toward the Pure Storage 130R, these guys have to manage their tires as well. They've got to ensure that they've got the right fuel load on board. They can't underfill the cars, otherwise they'll have a situation like Jonathan Mahotsi had in race 1 of the semi-finals, where he ran out of fuel on the last lap. So it's all vital to get all of these calculations right. You're talking about mathematicians. You've got to be a mathematician and an amazing chess player when it comes to this format of racing.
Well, I mean, that's why I love motorsport so much, because it is very much like a game of chess. It's just wonderful to watch as it unfolds. And Brandon Orby up into 13th place, so he's looking pretty safe at the moment to make it into one of the 2 final races for this evening. But we're just having a look. We've only got 23 of our runners. Martin de Beer making a dive down the inside, a good move on my screen, on Hunter. In that move. So great driving. We got 14 minutes left. This is the 3rd semi-final, Solidarity E-Race version 2, and it's 3 out of our 4 semi-finals. We've already had 2 of the big heats already. Oh, and one of the drivers going wide there. Of course, we've got one more race that's going to take place this evening in terms of our semi-finals. That'll be at Laguna Seca in the United States. And then, of course, we've also got our wild card race to end off the evening's proceedings.
So yes, so just keeping it all smooth and steady at this stage ahead of Langeveld. Wilkin is also sort of equidistant apart there between the top 3. So I think these top 3 have realized, well, they're not really going to have to fight each other here. They're going to secure themselves an opportunity in the final. What they will look to do, though, Sash, is try and get in a hot lap. The idea is, of course, to put in a fast lap so that you can get a decent classification for race 1 of Grand Final 1 tomorrow night. That will dictate where you end up on the grid. But there's going to be a little bit of a calculation with that as well, because remember, with the 4 different circuits, the lap times are going to be slightly varied. So you spoke about mathematicians. We're going to speak about them again right now. Our stewards and background technicians in the back of our office right now are going to have to be frantically working on calculators to get everybody up to speed and into a grid position that basically works well. Brandon Orby in the background, I think, also just spun out there again. I'm not quite sure we can go back to Orby, but I think Orby's just made another mistake. I saw that blue Audi get it wrong. I think that was out of Dunlop or Degener, and he's made a mistake. Here we go. Have a look at it. So going back slightly,
Yep,
this will
he's
be
dropped
running a
out.
little bit wide. I just want to see
Yeah,
him
he's
come.
dropped out.
Yeah, this is where he gets it
17th
wrong.
place at the moment.
Yeah, there you see, just loops it out all on his own. And the Porsche and the Aston, Audi, and sure, the Bentley just misses him. Only just, though.
He tagged somebody on the way there. We've got one of the Nissans. It looks like one of the Nissans, or trying to get past. No, but Orby holds on to his place 17th. So are you kicking himself now? You know, 2 big mistakes. Now he's out of any one of the final drives as well. Looking at that beautiful grey Bentley coming down. Mike Hensbury just looking stunning in that number 41 car. And he's looking pretty decent to make it into the final for tomorrow. So not too much action at the moment in terms of the front 7 guys, Greg, but I tell you, 8 to 15, I think there's going to be an incredible scrap with 11 minutes still to run.
Yeah, Henry just hanging on for now ahead of Leon van Wyk and Jason Gray. Bernard King is 9. Thomas, who's up into, of course, 10th place. He's lost out 1 position from his grid spot that he was in. This is a little bit further back on that one. That is Sean Buck now, looking for an opportunity to get through on Clark. Richard Clark just ahead of him. Nice little fight here. Nice livery on Clark's car as well. Gone with sort of the, I think it's almost like a scarlet color on that Mercedes-Benz. On my screen anyway, it might be slightly different on everybody else's because, of course, whatever technology you're watching this on, the colors might vary ever so slightly. The Porsche just behind that, though, of course, is Foster. And he's had a really nice run because Byron Foster was in 18th place on the grid. He's moved up to 13th, making up 5 positions. But we mentioned Martin de Beer earlier on. Martin de Beer, who's dropped down into 18th place, started in 8th. So he's the biggest loser so far in this heat after a couple of off-track antics, I think, and being helped out by a few of the crashes that have happened so far in Heat 3.
Yeah, it just shows you, Greg, you know, when you've got the track to yourself and you're doing some free practice runs and maybe even some qualifying runs, it's a lot easier than when you get into racing. As we're watching some great slipstreaming from Sean Back. He's sitting behind that Mercedes. He's lost all in his road as well. Can you believe it? On the straight, maybe in that slipstream just got a little bit too much dirty air and unfortunately put himself out of that contention. And he was pushing so hard. It's so easy to make a mistake, Greg. You just sit there and you cannot believe how sensitive these cars are.
Yeah, and the thing is, I mean, it also could be a bit of a hardware a fail at home, as we saw with Jason Absmeyer on a few occasions, where you go in and you're concentrating so hard and you go for that maneuver and you just push that steering wheel or thrust control in your hand a little bit too much, and it just completely loops you out without even you realizing the mistake that you've made. So it's all precision driving that's required. These precision drivers are in full effect here with the NEC Solidarity E-Race, and you can see that they're having to work hard. They come out of, that's Degner, heading down towards Data Science Corporation Hairpin, and this is a really tricky little corner here as well. As they come out of the hairpin, it's tight there, very, very tight. Up through 12, which is a big right-hand sweep, and you push the car and the G-forces of that car to the limit through this big right-hander, heading up towards the spoon. The Pure Storage 130R here is certainly a corner that has caught a few drivers out this evening, and I'll probably be catching a couple more throughout the last 8.5 minutes.
Yeah, there we go, going through that spoon curve there, sort of double apex through 13 and 14. Then, of course, it's a long straight. You've got to try and get as close as you can. And then, of course, this is the 130R that's coming up. I mean, we've seen some incredible passes at this part of the circuit over the years. I remember Fernando Alonso and Michael Schumacher, Keller, Jana Lacey has made some moves. I mean, it's just a spectacular place. Going into 16 and 17, into the triangle, and then, of course, onto the main straight again to complete yet another lap.
Now you mentioned those F1 drivers up at the 130R, Pure Storage 130R. I'm going to mention a few down into True Race Triangle, the Casino Triangle as it's known, the True Race for our liking. A certain Valentino Rossi going across the grass to take a victory over Casey Stoner, and also a little bit of antics between himself and Sete Gibernau. Some MotoGP events of the past, which created absolute havoc And fortunately, at that stage, it was social media in its infancy. So it wasn't quite the blown out of proportion maneuvers that get put out by all the fans on social that we have now. But we're hoping that the social media we're putting out here is certainly creating a big vibe for everybody. And you're enjoying all the action here from the 2.1 version of the NEC Solidarity E-Race. And just to get confirmation, as we expected there, Sash, coming through on the management group, Absmeyer will disconnect from the desk again.
Oh, shame, this poor kid. That's unbelievable. But then again, you mentioned a little bit earlier, Greg, have you ever heard a driver always admitting that he was at fault? Not very often. Look at this Van Beek going down the inside of Hensbury, actually down the outside. And how are they going to get through both of them there together? Oh, both giving each other quite a lot of space. I tell you, Van Beek looking very, very strong at the moment. And Hensbury is going to have to watch out in that huge big Bentley of his. But the great thing about both of these drivers is they're both pretty comfortable when it comes to being into the final tomorrow. Late on the brakes there from Hensbury, gave himself a little bit of a gap as well to the chasing Van Beek.
Coming through True Race Triangle now, another lap to be completed and just over 1.5 minutes to go. So some big action happening there for the battle for 7th. I think Van Beek is having to go defensive due to the fact that he'd like to be in 6th place and maybe move Hensbury down into that 7th spot. They've got some room though. Bernard King is not too close to the back end of them. In fact, he's about 6 seconds or so from them. So, 5.7-ish, around about the same amount as they come through there. I can't really see on my screen here the exact details of the splits. I'm going on a very blurred option. I'm having to sort of scrunch my Japanese eyes here to work out what the splits are. But needless to say, the splits are creating great action. And some great action here between Gray. Oh, there we go. Thank you very much, whoever did that. That just cleared up. You can see it perfectly clear now. Thank you, Brent. If that was you from EFX, you've done it to perfection. We can now see what's happening on the splits and the names for the first time this evening. Hey Sash?
That's why I had the other screen on, Greg, because I was sitting there, but it's about 4 seconds
So
behind,
we're watching Gray as he heads down here in the Audi.
Yes, sitting in 12th position at the moment, chasing down Foster. So our top 14, we've got Antle in 14th. He's got Isherwood behind him. There we go. We're on board with Mark Antle chasing down Bo. And then, of course, listen, Isherwood not far behind. So these are all very, very important positions when it comes to either the main final or our plate final tomorrow evening. So great driving. That Lexus all over the back of that Audi. He's going to dive down the inside. Is he going to make it happen? Oh, it's a fantastic move, but he's got the left-hander coming up. How are they going to get through there together? Brilliant driving. And you've got to say, great driving from Mark Antle. Superb to get past Bo there. Super, super driving.
Yeah, Alton Bo saw him coming, I think, but couldn't go defensive enough and had to give up the position eventually there to Mark Antle. Mark Antle, as I said, running the Mark VDS colours there on the side of his car, similar to the VDS team that runs the MotoGP. Oh, Alton Bo late on the brakes and into that very tricky True Race Casino Triangle. Didn't quite get it right there, and he's now dropped into the clutches of the hard charger behind him, and look how tight it is. Bo has got Isherwood all over the back of him looking for a way through, and if they're not careful, just behind them comes the beer. So we're in for a bit of a fight here for this last of the second 7. Alton Bo right now on the bubble in 14th place and under big attack from Isherwood.
Yeah, I tell you, he's seeming a little bit ragged at the moment, and he needs a couple of these long straights to get his mind back in the right place. But I tell you, I'm surprised if Isherwood gets past him during the course of this lap. You'll also see exactly what Mark Antle did and maybe line up Alton Bo the same way. Yeah, it looks like
Isherwood's going. He's having a look. He's going to have a look around the outside.
Go around the outside. Oh, great driving from both of them, but holds on. And I tell you, it's bringing De Beer closer and closer to this action as well.
Sliding in the background there from the second of the Lexuses, as you can see, Brandon Orby trying to close back down on Mike McGeer. So it looks like the second of those Lexus cars getting under attack as well as the first one. But Alton Bona on the defensive to keep out both the Bentley and the big AMG on very similar colors, those two. But AMG on the inside of the Bentley as they head up here, heading into that very, very tricky corner. And he's got through. No, he hasn't. He's just been able to squeeze him out. No, he has. The Bentley's dropped back one position. Isherwood has lost a place, and the Mercedes-Benz is through.
Unbelievable driving there from De Beer, from Isherwood. Isherwood now going to be chasing down Alton Bow. Alton Bow being much more composed on this lap. But I tell you, the man on the charge is definitely De Beer in that bright green Mercedes. But here comes the Bentley on the inside. The Bentley takes him on the inside. Maybe Isherwood has got some fuel issues. But the Bentley, what an unbelievable pass. But this is going to go down to the wire. Here they come, side by side, down the straight. Who's going to have the braveness going into turn one? It's the Mercedes.
Now, a very, very good possibility. This could be the last lap as well, Sash, with 57 seconds to go. We are probably looking at this as a final lap. Zaire, Essa, Langeveld and Wilken, they are 4 seconds and 8 seconds apart at the front end, and another 5 seconds down to Christos Besson. But the battle here for 14th, 15th and 16th place. Mark Antle just in the background as well, not too far off Forster. But Alton Bona having to go to Fenta Beer. Isherwood pushing hard, trying to find a way through there in the Bentley and return the favor on the AMG driver ahead of him. It is so tight between these two. I can't believe we're seeing this kind of action all the way down in 15th place. And the action has proved to be as good as what we expected, Sash.
Yeah, superb driving. Going up to Henbury, because Henbury just on the back of Heineke, and Heineke just on the back of Van Wyk as well. So this is for 5th, 6th and 7th position. But you got to say, Mark Antle and Alton Bow definitely got pretty lucky with the scrap behind him between De Beer and Isherwood. Zahir Essa and goes over the start-finish line. Superb drive from this great racing driver and sim racing driver. Brilliant victory. Langeveld in second, Wilken in third. We're on board with Christos Besson. He's going to take 4th position ahead of Van Wyk, Heineke, as well as Henbury. So those are your top 7.
Henbury makes the final.
5 seconds down the road. Yeah, Henbury in the final.
Henbury makes the final. That's good to see. So that's fantastic for him. And Mark Henbury will be very happy with that. Here's the battle we were watching coming down into that final true race triangle, the casino triangle. The Bentley's up the inside and got through. Can he get the power down now and maybe outgun the AMG? Martin De Beer going to try and go around him and find a way past before the checkered flag comes out. He just loses out. Brilliant stuff there between the two of them coming across the line. A great dice between those two as well. Great job from Isherwood and from De Beer. Isherwood getting through, and he gets that 14th spot. That's another coveted position that you want. So he just makes it up into what could potentially be the plate final. How awesome is this, though? This is the best part about what we see in the after a race meeting. It doesn't in real life. Only the winner and maybe a couple of guys who got some fans out there will do the celebrations they do. But here in the sim racing world, hey, man, everybody's doing donuts. Everybody's doing wheelies. Essa taking the win, Langeveld in second and Wilken in third.
Well, I've got to say, the great thing about this, Greg, is when you've got a director who actually knows where the action is happening. Maybe we've got to send Brendan to the most of the other circuit races around the world, because a lot of them don't see a lot of the action that actually is happening. So fantastic stuff there. And you've got to say, brilliant from Isherwood in the Bentley, right at the end, on the last lap, going into the triangle and pure storage triangle, and then managing to get that 14th and coveted position to make it into the plate final. So, nobody gives up in this racing and this NEC Solidarity E-Race. Brilliant third semi-final.
Yeah, you can't give up, Tash. That's the thing. I mean, your ability to recover in these kind of races is so much easier in other forms of motorsport where, of course, damage comes into play, tire wear comes into play, although it does come into play here in the virtual world, but fortunately not as much as what it's the real world. So, yeah, you've got to stick it out. You've got to hang in there and potentially find yourself in a position that you didn't think you'd be by the time the checkered flag comes out. So, great from Zaire Essa, taking the third of 4 semi-finals. We're going to climb onto EFX Airways one more time and probably, hopefully, try and get Clint Buckham out of that first class seat. Is it your turn or my turn to fly to the States in first class?
I think it's your turn to fly in first class, and if Buckham's flying, you're not going to get much sleep. I can tell you that, because that airplane's going to be doing whirly curlies all the way there. But we will get there safely. That's
exactly.
For sure. Oh,
look
wow,
at
look at that.
That's how fast it takes us to get there, but we don't mess around.
Well, I tell you, Stewie White in that Aston.
So practice session has started here at Laguna Seca.
Stewie White in 6th position. I'm just trying to see where he's going to start from in this, the 4th semi-final. Let's just call it up over here. He's going to start in 8th position. Yeah. Lorenzo Galtieri, then Mark van Rensburg, Zolder, Rutz, Alaric Enselen, our winner of the first Solidarity E-Race Championship, JC Grobbela, Johannes Greyling, Dewald Brimmer, Stuart White, Etienne Kleb, Craig Earcoat, making out our top 10. I think this is going to be a very, very tight event as well, Greg. I wouldn't want to go out on a limb and call a winner at this stage.
Sash, remember Alaric Enselen, the winner of the first Solidarity E-Race at Kyalami, was on international duties on a few occasions over the weekend, so didn't really spend a lot of time on the hot laps at Zolder. Kind of came in lastminute.com on Sunday night, put in the lap that dropped him to the position he starts in. Of course, that's 19th overall in the top 100, but 4th place in the semi-final 4. He should be in for a bit of a battle there. Lorenzo Galtieri was a top runner at Kyalami. Mark van Rensburg, of course, was the man who also fought hard with Mark Henbury, 2 of them in the Bentleys. Zolder Rutz looking for a chance to possibly get into that top 7. I think your biggest contention is going to come out of Stuart White, trying to make up 1 position and get into the top 7. He'll probably make up a lot more than just 1. Other men to watch out for, but further back, G-Max, George Smith in 16th place. He'll definitely be up for the challenge and looking for a chance to get through there. We're going to mention Ryan Crichton as well, down in 23rd place. And also Damien Halkett. We had a fantastic battle with him in some of the races we did for the promos. So he knows what to do in one of these race cars as we get ready to go now. And nice to see another Tifosi fan out there, as you can see, with Nur Hendricks deciding to go on the 488 option. There's the famous corkscrew corner.
Yeah, wonderful to see. And 3 Ferraris lining up in this event. So quite surprising, Greg. We've hardly seen the Ferraris taking action in this GT Challenge in our Solidarity E-Race. And one of them is Alaric Enselen. So he's our winner. So maybe he knows a little trick about the 488 GT3 car, a bit more than what the others. We'll have to wait and see over the next 20 minutes.
Yeah, well, maybe he picked up some information from the guys that help him out there. Remember, he's got a lot of outside assistance that comes from the race engineers he works with, and he'll be looking to put that into good practice this evening at Laguna Seca. The Ferrari might not be a bad option. I'm looking at Lorenzo Galtieri as well. He'll be looking as hard as he can. The split here is a little bit higher up in terms of the numbers. Your top 8 go from 8th place in the top 100 to 9th place with Stuart White. And the top 10 basically run up to 50th place. So the sorting hat app that they used to allocate drivers into each of the semi-finals, I think has worked quite nicely here. And I think we're going to be in for a little bit of a change-up on the usual contenders that we saw at Kyalami. And it's certainly going to give a bit more of a mix-up, particularly the fact that only since yesterday have they had a chance to go and practice the mystery circuit that was announced at 2 o'clock yesterday afternoon, being our grand final circuit at Mount Panorama in Australia.
Yeah, It's going to be amazing. The top 8 cars, we've got 8 different cars, which is quite fantastic to see as well.
Yeah.
Greg, I reckon, if everyone gets through turn 1 pretty clean, we're going to see a tremendous scrap between the first 8 or 8 cars on the front of the grid. But I tell you, from 9 up until 20th, watch this. I think we are in for some crazy, crazy action because there's not much between these drivers in terms of the way that they qualified around Zolder.
Yeah, exactly that, Sash. And also just to run through for your info as well, we've got some famous names involved in this circuit in terms of the corners. So we're going to allocate, of course, our famous sponsors' names to each of those corners too. So for your info, we've got the AfriHost Andretti hairpin down at turn 2, which is really cool. Works quite nicely with the play on words there. The corkscrew is proudly brought to you by Data Sciences this evening. In true race style, we're going to go to the true race curve. And of course, the final corner will be brought to you by our other sponsor, Pure Storage, which is great to see. We are at the NEC Solidarity E-Race semi-final number 4. A massive thanks to all of our sponsors for being involved, and we're looking forward to our final semi-final now to see who the final top 7 are going to be to tomorrow night's incredible grand final again.
Yeah, I tell you, it's been action all of the way. We've had 3 sensational races so far, and I don't think this one's going to disappoint at all. Lorenzo Gartieri will start in a pole position ahead of Mark van Rensburg. Of course, it is a rolling start. We're just waiting to get our live pictures from the Laguna Seca circuit in the United States. Just a magnificent place. There's Alaric Enselin. Oh, he's changed cars. Oh, no, he's not. He's behind in the blue Ferrari.
Yeah, he's gone into an Irish green.
Yeah, there he is.
Front end is Van Rensburg in that Irish green Bentley. Ulrich Enselin, I think, has gone in the Ferrari, the red, white, and blue colors. And we're about to go to green here, Sash. So turn 1 is not really a turn. In motorsport terms, it's known as a kink. But they do name it turn 1 as they get there. Green flag out. Remember, they go to lights and flags here in the States because they like to drop the flag man's out there, man. Good move on the inside, though. Coming from about the 3rd row there. The McLaren starting to make its way. The Genie as well, squeezing through for a possibility of turn 1. And into turn 1, of course, we head to the AfriHost Andretti hairpin. And there's some touching. 19 getting out of shape. Enselin's being hit. And behind that, there's a couple of taps as well. So there's big action coming out of Andretti. The AfriHost Andretti hairpin already putting the pressure, a couple of drivers. And fortunately, Ulrich Enselin has survived. But there were a couple of guys behind. Have a look at it from the aerial material. Courtesy of EFX and, of course, and Fasthouse. Oh, man, look at that. Brilliant stuff. But here comes the touch. There it is. It's the silver Porsche, by the looks of things, that took Ulrich Enselin out. He was able to just get ahead and back on track. And he doesn't lose too much ground as they come through 3 and 4. So very lucky to survive that, Sasha.
Very much so, Greg. I've got to tell you, he got bounced to the one side and fortunately got bounced back into the middle of the track. So pretty lucky for Enselin. The big winner of the start, Stuart White, is up to 4th place. So that's a superb start from him. But watch guys like Enselin from 6. He won't be happy. And, of course, we'll have to see what transpires in terms of what the stewards decide as to who was responsible for that collision. It's Gartieri from Grobela. From Stuart White, who's now up to 3rd place in his Aston Martin. Rutz, Van Rensburg, Enselin, Halkett, Brummer, Kutzer, and De Beer, rounding out our top 10 at present in our final semi-final around the Laguna Seca circuit in the United States. Just trying to see, Zander Rutz looking up.
Very good possibility that might have been Dierwald Brummer, the protagonist in that silver Porsche with the red stripe. Yeah, I think there might have been a little touch there from Ulrich Enselin on Ulrich Enselin's car from Dierwald Brummer. We'll wait and see if that's the case. But Enselin now trying to make up ground. Look at him just scything his way through there. Not holding back whatsoever to get through on Zander Rutz as they come down now into the Data Sciences corkscrew. Very tricky. Look at that. Just it breaks away left and right. It undulates either side. and the camber changes 3 times through the corkscrew. That's why it's known as the corkscrew. Absolutely amazing corner to go through. We saw Jason Absmeyer put up a video of him earlier on through this corner. He's not racing at this circuit, but he was absolutely lit through here on a few occasions, and his teammates starting to do the same thing. You can see just how hard they're having to push here in the initial stages of semi-final number 4. Stuart White in 3rd place, with Van Rensburg being closed down now by Ensslin in the Ferrari. Behind that, it's Roots. Then you've got Halkett. They are not far off the back end. And then Dierwald Brummer, first of the German machinery up there. And that, of course, the Porsche that he's piloting ahead of Kutzer and Kleb.
There we go. One of the BMWs, Adrian de Beer, in 11th place. He's chasing down Kleb. I tell you, Ensslin made the most of it when Van Rensburg and Roots had a little bit of a coming together. But we're on board with Adrian de Beer, car number 57 in the BMW, sitting in 11th place. Oh, somebody's gone off. I missed out who that was, but somebody definitely went off the track there. And of course, de Beer chasing Kleb down in that bright pink. What is it? It's Aston Martin in front of him. So these are the guys who are in the midfield back at
Aston
the
Martin.
moment.
Aston Martin.
Yeah, GMAC. Yeah, GMAC.
Interesting to see that colour being chosen there. Halkett in the Mercedes-Benz, I think, is the car that spun out there. Sash, the silver Mercedes. You can try and pick him up somewhere through there. He's down in 17th place there. Also running some sort of blue and black striping on the car. There he is. He's now closing onto the back end of the second of the pink machines out there. That is the sort of magenta-coloured AMG, and looking for a chance now to try and make up the ground. But just going back to this pack again, you see Dierwald Brummer starting to make his way through. Halkett just came through there, and I think he just loops it out all on his own, so I don't think he got helped out by anybody. He might have just put the wheels off the track slightly and caught himself out and spun off, which has dropped him down into 17th place. So we can try and pick up back on the front end action again as Halkett comes through, and he'll be kicking himself for a mistake like that.
Yeah, lost a little bit of our timing here at the moment, but I tell you, second, third, fourth, fifth, and 6th place, really, really tight at the front this evening. So it's all to play for. The top 7 are the only ones who go through into the final for tomorrow night. That's first, second, third, fourth, 5th, 6th, 7th drop back just a little bit. The Aston Martin running a little bit wide, chasing down the Ferrari of Alaric Ensslin.
As they come through there, completing another lap, it's good to see that they're having to push as hard as they can. Alaric Ensslin hasn't found a way through, and you can see just how hard Mark Van Rensburg is having to work to keep Ensslin out. So Mark Van Rensburg just maintaining position at this stage ahead of Ensslin. Ensslin might be just biding his time and waiting for a little bit later on in the race before he has a go. First and second through JC Krobler in 2nd place. He, of course, piloting the Honda by the looks of things as they come down through the corkscrew now, and Hall straight. The Data Sciences corkscrew hasn't seen much action, but we've had some great action down at the Africa Coast Andretti hairpin, and down into pure storage they come now. The final corner on Laguna Seca to complete another lap and get into the race itself. You can see Terry now with 1.5 seconds over Krobler. It's 1.8 down to Stuart White, but that'll change up ever so slightly now as they complete this other lap. And then behind that, Ensslin, Roots, Brummer into 7th. He's in the bubble spot at the moment. Kutzer behind him and Kleb just behind that. But picking up a little bit of a story there for you as well, Sash, as we go a little bit further back there to Jan Labuschagne. He's, of course, just ahead and fighting hard, trying to find his way through. This is the 16th car, the Mercedes-Benz. We picked up on this magenta Mercedes-Benz earlier on, but that pink Aston Martin at the front end. Incredible to see how in the Middle East, as opposed to here in the United States, when you have machinery like this, they tend to go with those kind of colors because in the Arab world, they love to have something completely unique because everything else is the same. So good to see the guys changing their livery up here for this 4th and final semi-final of the evening.
Yeah, I tell you, it's just fantastic to watch. We go back to Alaric Ensslin. He gets very, very quickly, especially through the twisty parts of Laguna Seca. But it's amazing. Watch him through the corkscrew. And then, of course, going into the final part of the lap onto the start finish. And it seems though that Bentley just pulls from the Ferrari. So watch this closely. We've got third, fourth, fifth, and sixth all there. Second, third, fourth, and fifth. So all to play for as we're on board. Galtieri, Grobler, White, Van Rensburg, and Ensslin. Nothing between second and fifth position here. Galtieri pretty comfortable out front though, 2.5 seconds ahead of everybody else. There they go through the corkscrew.
White is the biggest attacker at the moment, looking for a way through there on JC Grobler. So that so action down towards the final corner now. We pick up on car 48. That is Etienne Kleb in the pink Aston Martin. Just ahead of him is Kutzer. So Kutzer trying to go defensive and keep him out. I think Kutzer's gone with the Nissan, if I'm not mistaken. I'm just trying to pick up notes in Aston Martin as well. So two Astons fighting hard here. Different livery shows slightly different lines on the car, so it's a little bit more difficult. The screen is clear, but it's not 100% clear for us to have a look and see on some of those marks. Gilbert Brummer still in with a shot of the top 7 finish in the Porsche, even though he was, I kind of saw him as the protagonist in that early bit of race action that happened. So Brummer in 7th ahead of Kutzer, and it's Kleb and De Beer, and De Beer also piloting one of those BMWs as they come through now 4 and 5 up towards 6 and up the Rahal straight to the corkscrew. Looking for a chance now as they come through. This is turn 6. It's almost like a double left-hander. It's a slight straight between the two. Second and third, fourth and fifth are ready through the corkscrew, and Stuart White looking very dangerous as they head towards the 2-race rainy curve. Coming up into that rainy curve, Stuart White looking for a way past big time now on JC Grobler. Grobler could be in a bit of trouble here as White goes on the attack. You don't want Stuart White on your tail, not at this stage of the race. About 10 minutes to go, which is about 4.5 laps or 5 laps to go.
Yeah, some great driving from all of the drivers at the moment. You've got to say, big winner at the moment. Ryan Crichton started 23rd, he's up into 12th place. So it's into the
I'm not quite sure if we've lost Sasha Martinengo though, so I'll just hang on and try.
Oh, no, I'm here, Greg. Don't you worry about it. But Ryan Crichton looking very good, up to 11th place now. We're on board with Stuart White in the Aston Martin, chasing down the Honda of Grobler, and this allowing Galtieri to extend just 1.5 seconds, 2 seconds ahead. A little bit of a gap from White to Van Rensburg, then Ensslin pushing that Bentley, trying to get past that Bentley. You've got to believe if you can get past the Bentley, you might be able to put some added pressure onto Stuart White. All to play for. Just outside the top 7 is Kleb, and he's only half a second behind Kutzer, so watch out for them. On board with Waldo Spechers. He's sitting in 12th place at the moment in the Bentley, but and he's just, he's just gone past. Arcangeli has actually just gone past him on the circuit at the moment. That's Waldo Spechers, who is in the big Bentley. Arcangeli just got past him. As we look, one of the Porsches there seemed to take off from the circuit as well. So we got about 8.5 minutes left of this race, about 6 laps before we decide on our top 28 drivers for tomorrow's final.
Adrian De Beer in the BMW now, making his way around and going to be completing another lap. Back to the fight here, just ahead of him, of course, is Kleb and Kutzer. He's trying to close down on the two of them, and that BMW just doesn't seem to have the legs to close down on the two cars just ahead of him. So it's going to be a bit of a tight fight there to try and close those two Aston Martins down. This is Byron Kutzer we're talking about right now. TNR Racing heading up towards turn 6. Big left-hander at turn 6 and being followed very closely there by, or actually following on the back end, I should say, off Kleb. So Etienne Kleb and the two Aston Martins here going at it as they head up towards the entry point to Data Science's corkscrew. Different lines from there, and all big black lines out of the second Aston Martin He's been able to get through, though, because there was a mistake from there. Have a look at this. Big mistake coming out of that pink Aston Martin as he loops it out, which opens up the door. And thank you very much. There you have it. A big change up there between the two Aston Martins. And Kleb, the biggest loser there. Kutsa able to capitalize on the mistake made by his compatriot in a similar machine. Have a look at it from this point of view. This is heading out of turn 6, up the Rahal straight, into the entry point of the corkscrew. It's late brake right for the corkscrew. It's a blind rise to come up on. You've got to have the ability to brake. He brakes late, and then he just brakes too hard. Goes 360 degrees and hands that position over to his compatriot, Byron Kutsa, in a similar machine. So a bit of opportunistic driving coming out of Byron Kutsa and winning out the battle there and moving himself up into top 7. As we see a bit of a maneuver happening from the as well. Looks like Dierwold Brummer is closing on Ensslin. Ulrich Enslin's in trouble.
Yeah, 100%. All of a sudden, that Ferrari not as grippy as it was right in the beginning of this race. He's lost a lot of time to Van Rensburg, and Brummer right on the back of him in the Porsche as they go through the corkscrew down into the left-hander, and of course they're going to complete another lap. They're going to the little right-hander now, and of course onto that start-finish, but a little bit of gap between Ensslin and he's chasing Kutsa. This is going to be a race right until the end. De Beer, Kleb, Kleb's got to try and make up some time on Kutsa if he wants to get into that top 7 spots to make it into the final. And going further down, Hendricks is only 3/10 off Glashigan, and if he gets past him, he'll make it into the plate final as well. Yellow flags, we've got 5.5 minutes left. This is the race between Ulrich Ensslin and Dierwold Brummer, the Ferrari versus the Porsche, and the Bentley just ahead of them.
Yeah, that Bentley, I think, is in trouble, Sash. I got to tell you, I think Mark van Rensburg could be being closed down rapidly by Ensslin and Brummer. Speaking of Bentley's further back, place battle at the moment, Hendricks, and of course this is one that also counts for the plate final. You can see Hendricks in the Ferrari. He's got Sagan just ahead of him and Labuschagne behind him. So hardly anything in it here for the last part of the second 7 on track. Brett also not too far off there as well. And if we can see some maneuvers in the last couple of laps there, we might see the likes of Brett moving his way through nicely as we get into about 4 or 5 minutes to go of this race. The battle continuing all the way through. Garteri, though, has opened up a nice margin, but that margin has been closed down rapidly. So we may want to pick up on the front end action as well if we can, because I think we may be in for a bit of a fight here amongst our top competitors, first, second, and third. Krobler is only 0.6 of a second off the back end of Garteri. So a bit of a change-up potentially for the win here. And Stuart White waiting in the sidelines to possibly pounce and steal that away from both of them.
Yeah, unbelievably, we didn't see if Garteri made any mistake. He's pulled it back now to a second, but it was down to 0.3 of a second. And now Stuart White on a charge again, trying to get closer to Krobler. He's about 0.8 down. And Krobler made a little bit of a mistake that allowed Garteri. Another mistake there from Krobler. Stuart White right on the back of Krobler at this part of the circuit. Is he going to pull him up the hill? Can that Aston Martin do anything about the Honda? Can Stuart White do anything about Krobler? Also, we've got Van Rensburg, Ensslin and Brummer. Nothing between those two. Stuart White going to be chasing down Krobler all the way to the end. Garteri must have made a mistake earlier, Greg, because the gap was down to 0.3. Now it's back up to 1.2 seconds. So Garteri just getting back his rhythm. So easy to lose your concentration. Dierwold Brummer running very, very wide. He was right on the back of Ulrich Ensslin, and now Ulrich Ensslin back on the back of Van Rensburg. He's got to make this stick, because if he allows Brummer to get close, he knows that Brummer's got a good chance of passing him as well. So great racing in this, our 4th and final semi-final for tonight, and that'll give us our
close on the back end of Ensslin as they come through the final corner there. Pure storage and completes another lap. It's probably going to be about 2 laps to go for these guys. And coming up towards turn 1 now, Dierwold Brummer Ensign looking for an opportunity to go through possibly and get ahead of Van Rensburg. Van Rensburg holding up now.
Yeah, we're getting on board. Oh, Ulrich Enslin has got past Van Rensburg. So now he's going to chase down Stuart White. And here comes Diebold Brummer on the back of Van Rensburg as well, coming into the end of, I think it's the 8th lap that they have completed around Laguna Seca. What can Ulrich Enslin do now? Can he stretch his legs in that Ferrari ahead of the... big mistake there from Diebold Brummer. All cars, they come into the... first corner, the Aprihost Andretti corner, and the Bentley now pushing hard to try and make back that position on Ulrich Enslin. And Stuart White just ahead, only half a second behind Grobler. Phenomenal racing. Our top 7 at the moment: Gautieri, Grobler, White, Enslin, Van Rensburg, Diebold Brummer, and Caleb, who's just crossed over the finish line. We're just waiting for him to cross over the finish line. There's only 4-5 seconds between the top 7 drivers at the moment. Noah Hendricks is now into 13th place. He's got ahead of Glashigan, so he's into that plate final as well. And he's going down to dive down the inside of Mark Angeli. Another great maneuver from Noah Hendricks in the Ferrari. Moves himself up into 12th position. Great driving from everybody around this Laguna Seca. It looked like the Bentley in front was running a little bit wide. It's going to open it up for Noah Hendricks. Well, can Noah Hendricks take switches? It's like switches is just in front of him. Johan Laverskachny now in 15th place. He's in that magenta Mercedes. He needs to get one more position to get himself into that plate final. It is fast and furious and fantastic around Laguna Seca this afternoon as we look at our final race in the semi-final categories. Of course,
final race and final lap as well, Sash. We're on to the final lap now for these guys, and they've got to just keep it all together for a couple more meters. Remember, we're dealing with a 3.6 kilometer circuit here at Laguna Seca. Second place is certainly up for grabs as Stuart White is applying massive pressure onto the back end of Grobler. JC Grobler having to work double time now to keep out Stuart White. That's not an easy task. There is a multiple South African champion on your tail in terms of real racing, numerous karting championships, and of course a man who holds 5 of the 6 major circuits in South Africa's outright lap records as well. So certainly knows what to do in a race car, and now putting the pressure on as they come out of turn 6, up the Rahal straight and into the Data Sciences corkscrew. Hard on the brakes, JC has gone defensive. Stuart White trying to go round on him. We go back to Ulrich Enslin in the Ferrari just behind that, through the Data Sciences Corporation corkscrew, and looks like he's pulled a bit of a gap now over Diebold Brummer. Brummer's done the same thing and got through, I think, on Van Rensburg, and now coming to the line, up to the final corner at Pure Storage. Is it going to be Gautieri? It is. Lorenzo Gautieri is going to hang on for the win. He's going to take the 4th and final $500 for the semi-final win, beating out JC Grobler. The closest race we've had so far this evening, and that's exactly what I expected, your Sash, at Laguna Seca.
Yeah, agreed. I knew it from the beginning. If they all got through it, turn 1, cleanly, that's exactly how it would go. So terrific driving. Glashigan is going to get 14th position. There's Marco Arcangeli, who's in 13th. He'll get through as well. I've got to say, he gets up to 12th. I've got to say, Noah Hendricks was a terrific driver during this race. Well done to him to get up all the way to 11th position. Superb drive from Noah Hendricks.
Hats off as well to the man down in 19th place there, G-Max, Mr. George Smith. We also send our regards to you, sir, if you're watching this a little bit later on. And, of course, all our condolences for the loss in the family over the week. It's great to still have you out here, and I'm sure that you would have dedicated that to the man who's gone on to the better place that we all want to get to at some point in our lives. Congratulations goes out to Lorenzo Gautieri, Stuart White, and Ulrich Enslin eventually coming through for 3rd place, beating Van Rensburg to the line in the Bentley, and Diebold Brummer, Kleb, and Kutzer guaranteed a slot in tomorrow night's grand final number 1. We're going to now just reset and get everybody invited across to the all-important, and it is very important, this Sash, the the wild card race to decide who the last two drivers in our grand final are going to be tomorrow night.
Yeah, I mean, this is a shootout, Greg. This is now you just have to put your foot down and go for it. I got a little bit confused there because Stuart, as far as I know, came third. So I was trying to find where Grobler is, but I saw him. He came back on the timesheet. So, yeah, what a great race. What a great circuit as well. It's just fabulous to watch the quality of the drivers, everybody doing a great job. I just think also another mention to Ryan Crichton. Superb. Started 23rd, finished up in 9th place. So brilliant drive from a lot of drivers. I think they'll be very happy with what they've achieved here this evening.
Well, it certainly is. I think what we've done so far, having started so late with a little bit of issues out of our control and out of our team's control, we've managed to get it all up. The social media numbers seem to be pushing on nicely. It's our last race of the evening. Hopefully we can keep you around with us if you are watching via social media channels that are being put out there on YouTube as well as on our Facebook pages. But we're into the final part of the evening. It is the all-important wild card race. And as we saw at Kyalami, a couple of guys who made it into that wild card race used it to their advantage and some didn't. We've got 2 wild card positions available this time as opposed to just the winner of this wild card race. So it's going to be all important to make sure that they just crack the nod into that top 2. Now, there's a couple of guys who've had invitations extended to them. Jeff Kruger is one of them. I think Jonathan Machotzi also got a call up for the wild card. I think the grid is allowed to go up to 40 cars. So there's a very good possibility. There's another one, Chris Shorter, Rob Whiting, Machotzi, Daniel Rowe, Brandon Orby, Adrian Wood. I'm just going through a couple of names that might be there. Antle and Isherwood definitely going to be in contention. So, oh man, are we in for a bit of a run here in this wet conditions? And we've gone all the way back to that incredible circuit in Belgium at Zolder.
Yeah, this is going to be it's going to be fanatical and crazy. These drivers, I cannot wait for this race to start. There's so many drivers here that have got such a chance to make it into that final, but only 2 of them are going to be able to do it, Greg. So it's all to race for. Qualifying, how are they going to qualify, Greg, or has that been a luck of the draw?
I think what they're doing here in the free practice is they're going to have a look at put in Sash, and they'll also take into account how they finished up, not spinning out Porsches like that, but how they finished the one as well. So there may be a bit of a shuffle here. So a very good possibility of a bit of a shuffle happening. Daniel Rowe changing brand. Look at that. He's gone into an all yellow. And that, of course, as a Ferrari fan, Sasha Martinengo, I shouldn't have to tell you, is the original Ferrari color.
Yes, the Giallo Ferrari. Beautiful color. And Daniel Rowe currently at fourth on the track at the moment. We haven't got any times for them. They're in a free practice session. It is wet conditions, so it is declared a wet race. And we assume, Greg, that it's going to be wet for the whole of the race.
Yes. Yeah, that's what we got sent. Wet race has been declared for wet weather tires. You can see it is currently raining at Zolder, which means they're probably going to stick with all wet conditions. And Machotzi will definitely be looking to get those wet weather tires on as soon as possible, going to a reboot and a reset into pit lane. Just getting some information thrown at us as well from the sideline, Sash. Multiple SA champion and the man we spoke about in semi-final number 2, Michael Stephen, sending us a massive congratulations. Well done on a great production. Can't wait for tomorrow night. That's awesome to hear.
Fantastic. I mean, it's just wonderful that so many people are getting involved, getting engaged, getting excited. I'm getting WhatsApps from people all over the place, just saying how much they're enjoying it. So it's just fabulous to be able to have this opportunity to bring some live sim racing and racing to people, Greg. It's just, and it's so much fun to be part of it, to commentate it on, to watch the driving skill. And now for the first time, I'm watching a wet race.
Yeah, I've literally been looking forward to this more than anything else because we haven't had wet weather conditions yet, and it definitely changes up. And I can tell you from my own racing career, Sash, this brings the field back together. You'll be surprised as to what can happen in a wet race to bring the fast drivers back into the clutches of the sort of mid-pack and not so fast drivers. It levels the playing field big time.
100%. Just like in real racing as well. We saw G-Max there getting a little bit sideways, trying to find the limit of that Porsche, also coming through the chicane as well. He's the guy
straight into the camera.
Yeah, the Mercedes. I mean, he's picking up some big speed. You know, a lot of these sim races, some drivers, Greg, would have done a lot of practice in wet weather conditions, and perhaps maybe the normal racing drivers haven't done that much practice when it comes to wet weather conditions.
Sash, you know the beauty of this game with ACC is even though we had servers open for the drivers to do their hot laps in all the circuits that we've raced on so far, and of course only opening up the server for the grand final as of yesterday, majority of these guys also have the option to go and race in the artificial intelligent races out there where they can choose trickier conditions. So if you were clever, you might have taken one of your race day, one of your practice days, and gone and done just that. Gone and set up an artificial intelligence race against the computer and put in the wet weather conditions that were, of course, advertised for this wild card final. And if they've got it all right, there's a very good possibility those are the guys we're going to be seeing at the front end.
Yeah, it's just, you know, I've mentioned it so many times, the technology, the specs, how you can set up the cars, how you can set up the circuits. It's just wonderful. We see Whiting out there, Shorter out there as well. These guys will want to try and make up for the, I suppose, the disappointments of their semi-finals. Makotsi as well, running out of petrol. Man, that must hurt. He was doing so well. He was up to third or fourth place in his semi-final at one stage. Daniel Rowe, we're expecting some big things from him as well. So this is very much a free-for-all. And watch out for this young man, G-Max. He knows these kind of conditions quite well.
Well, the session has ended, so we're going to just come back to us here, Sash, to have a chat about potentially what could happen here. You've mentioned a few of the big names that are going to be involved. One name I did not see there, though, which I'm concerned about, is Absmeyer. And I wonder if his steering wheel might have given up the ghost. And if that's the case, it's thrown him completely out of contention. He may still be able to get the steering wheel sorted out and possibly get that last two invitations that will be up to the organizers to decide on, potentially for the plate final. So I don't know. Jason Absmeyer's had a bit of a nightmare at both of the Solidarity E-races so far, and all due to hardware issues at home, with his steering wheel coming loose off the desk again in the semi-final he was involved in tonight.
Yeah, well, he either needs a new steering wheel or a new desk, but he's definitely got to get his setup a little bit better. But it is sad not to see him because we know him as such a brilliant sim racer. We saw it, what he managed to do at Kyalami last week. So, yeah, disappointing not to have him. We've got 23 cars out there, Greg. And that looks like the starting grid.
No, Sash, what they've got now is a qualifying session. So they're going to run a 4-minute qualifying session just to give the guys a chance to set themselves up on the grid. Doesn't give them a lot of time. It basically gives you an out lap and a hot lap. And that's all you're going to have in these wet conditions to try and set up the best time you can to put you as high up on the grid as possible.
Yeah, and you know what, that's what qualifying should be about. It should be your out lap, one lap, and your in lap, and that's how your grid is going to be determined. I must say, from watching that free practice, and where is he? He's disappeared. Where's G-Max? I can't see him.
I don't see him out there. Yeah, he may have said, no, this might be too much for me. Highly unlikely, though. Okay, there's only 23 cars at a time that can be shown. Brendan, in that case, do you see Absmeyer further down? Okay, so we only got 25 there. Yeah. Okay.
25 cars there. G-Max was looking very racing in that free practice session. So I don't know what their free practice times were, This is going to be just a one-lap shootout for qualifying. Cannot wait to see how they finish up.
Yeah, basically
course,
it's an out lap, a hot lap, and then they come in, and once that lap is done, it'll be their qualifying lap. So let's have a look and see that top list. Shorter, Adrian Wood, Mahotsi, Daniel Rowe, all will know this format very well, having been involved in the Utinga Polo Cup. And of course, in that Polo Cup series, the qualifying happens. The top 6 then go into a Super Pole format, which is an out lap, a hot lap, and an in lap. So that's literally the conditions that Shorter, Wood, Mahotsi, and Rowe would be accustomed to. So if they can get it right here and use their knowledge and experience from Utinga Polo Cup Super Poles, they might get to the front end.
Yeah, we saw a big mistake there from Burberry, went off the circuit. We're into now our fast laps. Also, what you don't want to encounter on your qualifying lap is any traffic. So Shorter definitely in the right position, although he's going to get the most amount of water on this lap. So let's see how everyone does as we get into the last minute of qualifying.
Last minute of qualifying, we then go into a 10-minute race. So at this circuit sash, that'll probably be about 7 or 8 laps that we get to do. And of course, that's all to get to the top 2 positions on track to ensure yourself a grid position tomorrow in Grand Final number 1. Grand Final number 1, the way it finishes up is, of course, how they will start Grand Final number 2, the big finale in our second version of the Solidarity E-Race, proudly brought to you by NEC, Pure Storage, AfriHost, Data Science Corporation, and True Race.
So we've had our first laps that have come through. Shorter 3/10 quicker than Whiting, and then a full 1.8 seconds ahead of Strauss. So Shorter definitely knows how to drive in these conditions, as does Whiting. We've still got a lot of cars that still have to get across the track. Some of them might only have the one lap because there's only 5 seconds before the checkered flag gets put down.
Yeah, it's going to be fun and games, that is for sure. I think we're going to be in for an epic little race here in the wet. It's certainly, as I said, one of the things I've been looking forward to the most is an actual race in wet weather conditions where I think it's actually been set as wet weather, but it is the weather option of changeable. So it could potentially stay wet the entire time. It may stop raining, which also then throws in a factor as to do you have to come in for a tyre change or not? Or do you have to stay out there on wet weather tyres that'll go off pretty rapidly, as we see in the real world?
Yeah, we've got McCarthy's got up to 3rd position. Whiting is up in 2nd. He's only 0.09 of a second behind Shorter. Wood 1.6 seconds down. Let's see how the rest of them progress as they finish their checkered flag. We're just going to wait for all of the drivers to get through, and then, of course, we will have an understanding of where they're going to be. Jason Isherwood moves up to 8th position.
So once again, Sash, at this incredible circuit at Zolder. That's not how you want to be finishing it, Jason Isherwood. Not in the wall, but just reset. There you go. Perfectly brand new Bentley in the pit lane. As I said, the car on the left-hand side there, Sash, with that little Puma on the side, that's Mark VDS colors from MotoGP, and it's Mark Antle, I think, is at the wheel of that number 23 machine. So I like the fact that he's supporting a little bit of the Mark VDS team with that Puma down the side, and very similar to the VDS team that runs in Moto2 and MotoGP. I love that. A biker at heart by the sounds of things.
Wonderful to see. So Shorter just managed to pop out Rob Whiting there by 0.09 of a second, Greg. So the start of rain conditions is, something that we haven't seen. So, you don't want to get wheel spin getting off the line there. It's Bentley versus Mercedes versus Audi in your top 3. So great lap from Jonathan McCarthy. Going further down, Daniel Rowe in the Ferrari, all the way down in 21st. And G-Max pushed it up to 13th in his qualifying as well. So it's only 2 drivers that are going to make it through.
Yeah, phenomenal effort from everybody to make it into that very tricky wet qualifying session. We've got about 12 seconds before that green flag waves and they can start the warm-up lap. Shorter and Whiting the front row, Machotzi and Strauss the second row, Wood and Antle the third, Jacobs and Roots, Isherwood and Peters, Bagara and Krayling, G-Max there in 13, lucky for some. Alongside Mayer, it's Nell and Burberry. It's Berger and Hunter, Miller and Buckner. Rowe didn't quite get it all together there, Daniel Rowe. Maybe the change of machinery has caught him out. I think that's possibly the case there, Slash, because we saw that on a few occasions. If you change your machine and didn't get the setup right on the machine, or you hadn't got the setup already pre-programmed, it can be vital. And it looks like Daniel Rowe might have just gone the wrong way there in changing from his original seat. I think he was in the Mercedes-Benz with the South African flag livery on the side, and now in that all-yellow Ferrari down in 21st place.
Yeah, I mean, look at the three Ferraris, 17th, 21st, and 25th. So, yeah, not great for them. We've got 27 runners. Brendan Orby's joined in at 26th, and Grassa at 27th. But only 2 drivers are going to go through. And this is going to be a lot of fun and games. We saw a lot of slipping and sliding in the free practice sessions, Greg. So one little mistake, I mean, you could take 3 or 4 cars out. Not that we want to see that, but it could well happen.
I just am so excited to see what kind of chaos could happen down into turn 1. Turn 1, of course, here is pure storage. It's the eerste turn at the incredible Zolder circuit. We go into Sterrenbachbocht, which is turn 2, out of the channel turn at 3, up to Lucien Bianchi at 4, through the Afrihost Kleine chicane. That's turn 5. Then it's the Butte corner that takes them into the very famous Tourmaline. And Tourmaline is sponsored by Data Sciences. That's the section of the circuit we're going into right now, led there with Corne Strauss. It's a big left-hand sweeping downhill corner that takes you all the way down to Boulderberg. That's the little, it's almost a hairpin. It's not quite 180 degrees. It's probably about 150 degrees. But then you come out of that through a little kink called Jockenrit, and they're about to make their way through there. Then it's a short straight to the True Racer, and of course True Racer's Jackie X chicane, and then back onto the NEC straight to complete the lap here at Zolder. So yeah, stand by for 10 minutes of absolutely amazing action. There they go through Jockenrit, making their way down to the final chicane, the final corner. It's a big left-hand, right-hand flick that brings them onto the straight and sets them up in their grid positions. 27 cars about to go to battle. That's a great number, by the way, heading in towards the wild card decider for the top 2 positions. That's what counts here. That'll put you into tomorrow night's grand finals. So all to play for, and who's going to have what it takes as they make their way down into the straight now and across the NEC straight start-finish line for our wild card 10-minuter.
Yep, we're just waiting for the green lights. Chris Short is definitely going to want to have to defend the inside line. He's got a good start, but I tell you, Machotzi had a great start as well. Machotzi could get the jump on one. Oh, Whiting goes around the outside, and good driving from just about everybody over there. Shorter, Whiting, Machotzi. Those were your top 3. It seems as though everyone's gotten through. Somebody coming out of the pit lane, that's Johan Jacobs from 10th position. So he started from the pit lane. As he's coming out there, and we get back to our live action. We're on board with Hilton Peters, who's in 4th position. I'm just trying to see. Okay, we're just getting updates. In 6th position at the moment. So Shorter, Whiting, Machotzi, Wood, Strauss, and Peters. Those are your top 6. Only 2 of them are going to go through. Wow, there's bollards flying all over the place. Oh, it's a huge crash.
Big one, 4, 5, 6 cars involved as they came up over the Butte corner. Make that 7, 8, 9 cars involved now, Sash. Whoa! I did say that rain was going to be a big factor here. There's a couple of cars that have been caught out. I'd say there's about 10 or 12 cars caught out. Here's a replay. The Ferrari goes sliding off. 2 of the Audis, the Aston Martin, and it looks like also one of the McLarens involved there. But a whole bunch of cars involved. That's moved Adrian Wood up into 4th place. Have we gone under full course caution? Yes, we have. It's yellow flags all the way around, and now green flags again down to the section. So these guys have got clear air. It's a big move there happening for Adrian Wood as he starts to close things down now onto the back end of Machotzi. Have a look at that. Shorter, Machotzi, Wood. Are we watching Utinga Polo Cup, or are we watching the wild card race here at NEC Solidarity?
I tell you, when I saw all of that carnage, it reminded me of 1999 or 1998 at the Spa circuit, also in Belgium, where we had all of that chaos. On board with this very pretty, sort of your Hulk colors, purple and green.
Just the opposite.
Jason Nell.
The opposite colours there for Jason Nell, going with the purple and green as opposed to the green and purple, but nice livery on that car as well. He's closing down on Burberry and on Krayling. Burberry coming along from the back end, looking to stay with the Audi of Nell, but there's a Lamborghini in front that could be in a bit of trouble. And G-Max, look where G-Max has ended up there. George Smith is up into 7th place behind Jason Isherwood. A fantastic start there from him, and that might be crucial. This is where it all went wrong. We saw a couple of cars in the background just flying off. We saw cones and wings going amiss, and then it all just turned into chaos. But that has helped Chris Shorter out dramatically. He's able to get ahead now of Whiting. Whiting trying to stay off and fend off the attack coming there from Mahotsi. We see a maneuver here from Adrian Wood diving on the inside. Can he find a way through? I think he has. Woody might have got through there, and Mahotsi might have just lost out.
Yeah, I think he has so, very much so. And Shorter and Whiting just 7/10 between them. So Mahotsi and Wood now ahead of Mahotsi. Wood is definitely going to have to push really, really hard to try and get one of those 2 top spots to get through to tomorrow's final.
Mahotsi back on the favour by the looks of things. So a little bit of a change-up and then a return of the favour almost instantaneously. So that's going to be a fight, I think, for 3rd place. If they keep fighting, though, it is going to drop them out of contention there from Shorter and Whiting. Whiting knows 2nd place is good enough. He's not going to offend. He's not going to fight for the win. He's going to look for that 2nd place unless these guys start to close them down. If they start to close them down, he might have a go at Shorter and put a car between himself and the protagonist behind. But we'll have to wait and see what Mahotzi's plans are. Mahotzi at this stage still ahead of Adrian Wood as they came through the Kleine chicane there, and Afrihost chicane as we know it. And now heading up into Tamerlanbocht. This is the data sciences section of the circuit, and what a turnaround there. Further back, Neil Berger having a bit of a fight there. The Ferrari coming under attack from Jan Jacobs in the Audi as they head to the Kleine chicane. There's a big move on the inside there, but can't quite make it stick as they try to close things down on Hunter and Buckner.
Yeah, I tell you about the top 2, but it's all of these drivers, Marcel, driving in the rain for the first time for a lot of them. So it's all about, let's have a look here. Oh, is that, down the inside. It's a great move in the Lamborghini from Johannes Skrobler on the G-Max. G-Max, no, he's in the Porsche just behind them as well. So the G-Max is definitely pushing Krayling as hard as possible, tries to go around the inside. Will he get the inside? No, he doesn't get the inside, but he's going to chase that Bentley down. He's got the Audi all over the back of him, of Nell as well. So G-Max, we're on board with him, the number 64.
It's Isherwood that you are not getting there, Sash. It's the Bentley of Isherwood that's in the mid-pack there between the Porsche and that Lamborghini. So George G-Max looking for a way through there on Isherwood. Isherwood got caught out by the Lamborghini, and Krayling just made a great move. Problems there for one of the other cars. I think that might be Roots. That might be Zolder. Roots in a bit of trouble there as he runs wide. Or was it a back marker we might have caught up on? There are a couple of back markers that have gone slightly slow due to the wet conditions. But as they come through there, and of course because of the big crash as well.
Oh, and G-Max has made it stick. He's got past Isherwood. Great pass. Oh, and he spun it. Can you believe it, from G-Max? What a great move. And then unfortunately put his foot on the fast pedal just a little bit too early. And he's spun himself out, going to drop down at least 6 or 7 positions.
I'd love to find out from some of these drivers, particularly in the wet weather conditions, do they apply the same principles to what we get told as racing drivers? And of course, me not being the professional racing driver, but getting an opportunity to have a few drives on a few occasions. When wet weather conditions come out like this, if you're in a rear-wheel drive car, it's difficult enough to get the power down. And with the power of these cars that's available, you've got to be playing around in the higher gears. You can't be dropping down into the first and second gears like you usually would when you conditions. So you're going to probably be looking at these guys to be staying in the 3rd and 4th and 5th gears as opposed to dropping down to the lower ones. And I'm sure it applies on a similar vein if I take what I've been told so far about sim racing and real world racing being on a similar vein.
Yeah, I think you're spot on there. And I tell you, the guy to watch is Jonathan Mochotsi. He's pulled about 1.3 seconds off Rob Whiting. So position number 2, with only 3 minutes left on the clock, is still not over. Mochotsi's got it all to do in the next 2 laps to see if he can get close to Rob Whiting and also pass him as well. We're on board with Jason and Nell in the Audi, and I tell you that Bentley was completely out of shape. I think that Audi's going to dive him down in the inside. No, the Bentley just holds on, bounces over the curves, so does the Audi, and the grunt of that Bentley just pulls away from the Audi. So, wow, this is terrific racing.
Yeah, it's magnificent stuff, Sash. It's exactly what I expected. Yeah, problems there. Another runner wide. Couple of cars running wide now. Looks like the rain might be getting a bit heavier here, Sash. So it looks like the rainy conditions have got a little bit heavier. And now, with a lot of water on the circuit, the Pirelli, these guys will be on full wets. They won't be on the intermediate. So they're going to start taking a bit of strain now. And of course, with the dry, well, not drier, but the drier conditions to what they are right now, the tires may be a bit worn and now starting to take a bit of strain.
Very much so, Greg. And also from that multi-car pileup, there could be a little bit of oil on the circuit as well. So it's getting very treacherous out there, and mistakes creeping in pretty easily. Don't forget, a lot of these guys were in semi-finals a little bit earlier, so a little bit of mental fatigue pushing in as well. Hopefully we can get to the front. There's Mochotsi in 3rd place, and he's chasing down. And Whiting seems to, and Mochotsi's still getting a little bit closer to Whiting as we get into the final, most probably lap and a half of this wild card race, where the top 2 drivers will go through and join the other 28 drivers in tomorrow night's final.
Right now, that's in the hands of Shorter and Whiting, with coming up to Terminal Bocht. That's turn 7. There's 8, 9, and 10 to go before they get into the last lap of action here from Zolder in the wet weather conditions. And Chris Shorter's done it all right. Shorter just keeping it all together at the front end. Nice livery on his car as well. He's gone with that all black front. Always looks very menacing on any car, particularly if it's in a matte color like Shorter's gone with. And then, of course, running into that very, very resplendent metallic red in the back. But Rob Whiting, I think, is also doing a great job. He looks like he's pulled a small margin over Mochotsi, and Jonathan Mochotsi is going to have to work hard now on this last lap if he wants to get into the final and join his fellow compatriot from the Utinga Polo Cup.
Yeah, very solid lap there from Whiting, pulled out about 4/10 on Mochotsi, and that's what it's all about. Unless there's a big mistake from Whiting, I don't think Jonathan Mochotsi is going to do anything. And man, how often is in your life you finish 3rd in a race and you don't get anything for it? So, it's going to be a little bit disappointing for Jonathan Mochotsi.
We're on board with Chris Shorter as we come out of the Afrihost Kleiner chicane up through the big Butte corner now, and up into the Terminal Bocht, sponsored here this weekend, of course, or this week by Data Science Corporation. As they come out of that one, it's a right-hander that takes them down the hill. It's then a big right-left sweep as they head towards Boulderberg. It's turn 8. It's an almost 180 hairpin. You can see late braking here from Shorter, but a little bit earlier than what he's been doing all race long, taking through Jockenrit. Jockenrit is a short straight down to the final corner. And in true racing condition, we head to true race with Jackie X, the final chicane here at Zolder. And it's going to be Chris Shorter. Is it going to be Rob Whiting or Mochotsi behind him? We'll have to wait and see. I think Whiting might have done enough. At the last pass, it was about a 3-second gap. And I think Rob Whiting is going to take it. Yes, he is. Rob Whiting takes the coveted 2nd place there. And Shorter and Whiting have gone through and taken the final 2 spots for tomorrow night's grand final.
Yeah, wonderful display of very, very precise driving from Shorter and Whiting. We had the carnage a little bit earlier as Mochotsi still got petrol in his car, so he can do some donuts for a change. But Yeah, great race. Some crazy carnage a little bit earlier on, but just wonderful to see a race in the rain as well, Greg.
Oh!
Whoa!
Daniel Rowe
This is what you
taking
can
out his
do in sim
teammate
racing.
unceremoniously.
Oh my
Yeah,
goodness!
that's what happens at the end of a sim race, though. Just to let everybody know, there's no harm done there. It's literally the guys that have slowed down and stopped on the side of the circuit, and the guys who are continuing to race at full race pace don't see them and have to react in the last few seconds. And that's exactly what Daniel Rowe had to do to try and miss his antics of his teammate in the real world from Volkswagen Motorsport, Jonathan Mahotsi. But congratulations there to Chris Shorter and to Rob Whiting. They will be heading into tomorrow night's grand final here in the NEC Solidarity E-Race.
Yeah, and I must say, Greg, I think two very deserved drivers to get through there. You can only get two, but I think those two have really shown quite a caliber of driving in the semi-finals and also in their qualifying. So it's great to see them there as well, joining the other 28. I think we're in for a spectacular two final races tomorrow night.
We are indeed, Sash. We're not going to keep our viewers much longer. So just to run through semi-final one, Bashir Jadwat taking that one, Luke Lachesi taking the second one, Zahir Essa taking the third one, and Lorenzo Garteri taking the fourth and final semi-final, each of them getting 500 Rand for their efforts. And congratulations once again to Chris Shorter and Rob Whiting making it into that all-important grand final tomorrow night. We'll be coming to you live on the same platforms you've been watching here this evening, hopefully with no issues like we had tonight. I don't think there's going to be any. We'll be going live at approximately 6:25 to get into the first race action, which will be the grand final number one. We'll then finish that one up. It's a 10-lapper. Give the authorities a chance to set up the grid for grand final number two. But in between the two grand finals, we will be catching up with the NEC Globals. I think it's going to be Francois Remy Monnier again. Other than that, we're also going to be watching the plate final, which is, of course, 2,000 Rand up for grabs for the win, 1,000 Rand for second, and 500 for third. And then, of course, we're going to fight it out for the big 12,000 Rand prize fund for race win in grand final number two.
Yeah, I cannot wait for tomorrow evening, and I know we ran a little bit longer this evening, but thanks very much to everybody who stayed with us. I hope you enjoyed the action as much as we enjoyed it. I can't wait for tomorrow. I think we're in for just another wonderful evening.
Ladies and gents, on behalf of Sasha Martinengo, F1 Sasha, and the voice of choice, Greg Maloney, thank you so much for staying with us. Come and join us tomorrow night for all the action from the grand final of the NEC Solidarity E-Race, proudly brought to you by NEC Global, Pure Storage, AfriHost, Data Science Corporation, and True Race. We'll see you tomorrow. Take care then. Bye-bye now.